in the history of Boone County. There's a lot of change going on, and I am just so humbled to be involved in that.
He is a 2014 graduate of the University of Missouri. He's also served as president of the Columbia Farmers Market. He replaces the former Boone County Treasurer, Tom Darrow, who resigned back in January. More than 100 people turning out on Tuesday, and they toured the $23 million new terminal that is being built at Columbia Regional Airport, COU. City providing guided tours to give you and the news media the ability to see the construction site. COU manager Michael Parks tells my colleague, 93.9 The Eagles' Branden Rathert, that the new terminal should open in late summer.
We're going to be close to Labor Day. I'll put it that way. It's going to be opened up near that time, so we won't have a precise date until a little bit closer.
New terminal will be 52,000 square feet. That compares to the 16,000 square foot current facility. The COU terminal, the current one, was built back in 1968. And Columbia's outgoing mayor is describing the new $240 million I-70 Roachport Bridge project as a game changer. Mayor Brian Treese notes the trucks across the I-70 Roachport Bridge are in 48 different states within 48 hours.
None of us can remember when that bridge was built in the 1950s. It's well beyond its useful life.
He also notes Oscar Mayer hot dogs are made right here in Columbia. Those products cross the Roachport Bridge. Missouri has received an $81 million federal grant for the Roachport Bridge project. And coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll have details on a businessman here in mid-Missouri. He is heading to federal prison. He pleaded guilty to trying to have the victim in a statutory sodomy case killed. He also told the undercover agent he wanted to kill the mother, but he said he didn't have the money and that he hoped that she would kill herself after he was able to have the victim killed. We'll have all those details on that case coming up at the bottom of the hour. Our news is brought to you this hour by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all of your cooling needs, log on to airserve.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:07. In sports, a lot of home runs last night for both the Cardinals and also the Royals. 5 home runs in the game. You'd think that there would have been more runs scored, but a lot of them were single shots, if you will. Cardinals beat the Royals 6-5 at Busch Stadium. Albert Pujols with a big home run, his first as a Cardinal since 2011. And the Cardinals win it again 6-5. Salvador Perez, 2 massive home runs for Kansas City. Cardinals and the Royals again. Businessman special today at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. You'll hear it on 93.9 The Eagle. They are really going to have a hard time getting this game in based on the weather forecast, but hopefully they will be able to get it in. Severe weather could be a factor. Certainly rain will be a factor as well, and heavy rain throughout the day. Our sports is brought to you this hour by Atterbury Auction. They're Mid-Missouri's most trusted online live auction company. They specialize in real estate, personal property auctions. Visit AtterburySells.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:08. John, thanks so much. Right now we do have a light rain falling in Columbia, 59. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Again, we did have a pursuit that came up from Jefferson City on Highway 63. Many of you saw the pursuit. I did speak to the Highway Patrol here just before I went on the air, and they tell me they have terminated the pursuit. I believe it has been picked back up, though, by CPD. So if you're in that area around the business loop, there may be a chase going on, but it is ended on Highway 63 for now. No other traffic issues to report. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. We have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
we know we're going to get crime under control, and the problems we're facing is a problem that is hitting our entire nation right now, and that is why this is a national response. We need a national response to this issue.
There it is. That didn't take long. Shooting, national gun control. Took like 3, 2, 1 seconds. In New York City, there is a person of interest. Nobody in custody yet. Frank James is the guy's name. He is just a person of interest. In other words, like locally, law enforcement here will say, hey, if you know where this dude is, we would like to talk to him. You know what that means.
Exactly.
Yeah, we just want to go and visit and have a cup of coffee. It's never quite like that when law enforcement says, hey, we're looking for this guy, and by the way, if you see him, could you let him know that we said hey? And we'd like to have some coffee, too. And it's interesting. The number, I've never been on a subway in New York City. I've been to New York City once, and I don't even know 5 years ago. I don't even know if I'd ever get on the subway then. But for people in New York, it is a way of life. It is a necessity.
Yeah, I heard some reactions yesterday from some folks that were, around the subway or regularly take it, and they said, yeah, I mean, it's the cheapest form of transportation, especially with gas prices as high. People are like, well, are you not going to take the subway? And they're kind of like, well, what choice do I have, right? It's terrifying to step foot on there now, knowing that, and it's been, I guess, the target, the violence has been increasing in recent times, and I can't imagine waking up this morning thinking that's my only means to get to work. Having to step foot on that train again. It's terrifying.
And apparently it's like if you've ever been to the French Quarter in New Orleans, everybody talks about it. It's a great place. It's a fun place to hang out. But, man, you walk through the French Quarter at night and it smells like booze and urine. And I imagine that's what the New York City subways smell like. And right now they're saying officially, so you get conflicting reports. No, we don't think it's terrorism. And then another law enforcement agency will say, well, we can't rule out terrorism. Fox will have more on this coming up. At 6:30 here on 93.9 The Eagle, I think we're understanding the bottom line on whether there was fear we could get some really nasty stuff. But right now it looks like mostly in mid-Missouri, heavy rain throughout the day.
It really is, Branden. And again, for people just tuning in and waking up, they may know that last night and during the day we reported, and accurately at the time, that we thought there would be 2 rounds based on the Weather Service. One from 3 to 5 this morning, one from about, let's say, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You and I both arrived at the station early. We were ready to go for live coverage at 3. Just didn't happen because of the air mass. So there is no, let's put it this way, there's a very, very, very low severe weather threat. It has moved well off to our east and the southeast. We still will see some heavy rain. We'll still see some downpours. We'll still see some lightning, but the good news is tornado threat is essentially over.
I love that. I was listening to the Randy Tobler show yesterday. He's on 4 to 6. Had on Tony Lupo, who's an he's a meteorologist, but he's a professor of atmospheric sciences at Mizzou, and he's written a piece on the perception and the magnitude to which people will talk about climate change. It's being picked up by the Washington Examiner. I think the Missouri Independent is going to carry his piece, too. And he says, and Tony and I have agreed on this. Yeah, sure, the climate has changed, especially when you talk about the industrialization period of the world. You don't think that our climate did change a little bit? It absolutely did, and he has said as much. But to the extent that these people are crying, and it's happening because of this, and it's caused because Branden puts on right guard in the morning, and when he sprays on that right guard, some of those fluorocarbons, they get in the air, and because of that, we're getting heavy rain today after it was 80 yesterday. It's got to be climate change. But I was thinking about this. I believe, and I'm not kidding here, but people talk about seasonal affective disorder, and I believe in it because it affects me. See, if it doesn't affect me, I wouldn't believe in it. But
I 100% believe in it.
And it occurred to me, you know what? Maybe there is something to climate change because you read like USA Today, man, all over oh my God, 80 yesterday, storms today, what's coming on? There was an apocalyptic story, I think Friday or over the weekend about California will look like Mars in like 5 years if we don't do something. But people buy that and they believe it, and then they run around. It's kind of like any other thing, COVID and racism and, oh my God, you see what this, its front page has got to be a big deal. California is going to look like Mars in a few years. But it occurred to me, you know what? Maybe climate change is a bigger problem than I'm willing to believe because my seasonal affective disorder used to hit me in February. Anymore, it's like March. So the season of my affective disorder has moved from February to March. It's got to be climate change. Welcome into the show. Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, Hannah the producer. I am Branden Rathert. This is Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, who, by the way, I was talking to her yesterday at the new terminal under construction, Columbia Regional Airport. Some highlights from that. That's going to be a beautiful facility. But first, she was talking to ABC 17. She was talking about inflation. By the way, we have a great idea today. Stephanie had a great idea. So I think we're going to do it all morning long.
Okay.
For some of our bumper music, not all of it, but half of it, we were talking about inflation. And to put this in perspective, the inflation we have right now, Hannah and Stephanie have never seen anything like this. There's a lot of folks, if you're under 45 years old, I mean, it was 40 years ago, but really, if, you know, unless you're...
I wasn't purchasing a lot of stuff at age 5.
Exactly. So 5 and 10 years old, you may not even have understood. You may have seen how your parents and how they, because that's one of my big memories from late 70s, early 80s, how it was for my parents. I didn't understand what was going on. I know we ain't had no money, and I know people did not like this guy named Jimmy C., who lived in a house that was white in a faraway town called Washington, D.C. So this morning, we're going to play like music from 81, 82, but the crappy music, because it was crappy times then, and unfortunately there are some real challenges, I think. So we're going to do like some of the cheesiest, crappiest stuff that back in 81 and 82 was like top 40 radio.
I love it.
I know. Hartzler, yesterday, ABC 17 on inflation.
We can recover from it. I lived through the 70s. We had 14, 15% interest rates and inflation. So it just takes a while, but we need to act now. We've got to quit spending money we don't have out of Washington.
That's Hartzler yesterday, 4th District Congresswoman, also running for Senate. By the way, one of her opponents in that Senate race, Congressman Billy Long, is here at 710. This thing with the inflation, I mean, it's not a conservative talking point. It's not a reason to complain against Democrats. We're not complaining about Democrats. We're complaining about inflation that was created by the Democrat progressive mindset. You cannot get around that. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. But it's a real thing when you start going, I don't know if we can do this, or we might have to hold on. Or the other thing, what's next? Because the presidential election ain't this year. It's what's next. It's almost that sense of impending doom.
Well, and I think it just compounds, right? And we talked yesterday about kind of that feeling of unease, and I had that during COVID, and I was thinking, you know, once we're on the other side of COVID, some of that unease would go away, fear for the future and general unrest. And I think a lot of people are sitting around like me thinking, yeah, is this going up? You know, is this going to get worse? You know, I don't have any expectations that it's going to get any better under Joe Biden. And so then you're making decisions. Do I want to buy a new house? Do I want to start a business? Do I want to, buy a new car? And all that hesitation in making those choices and not having the confidence in your country and your future to make those business choices or family choices is further compounding the economic problem we already have.
Becomes almost insurmountable, and you drive by the break time and you're like, oh, look, gas is down to $3.75 a gallon. Yay.
I almost cheered. I actually filled up my little car, and I think it was because I wasn't on E yet, but I got under $50, and so I don't think it's been under 50 in a while.
Here's how bad it's getting. More perspective. Last night when Stephanie went home, she sat down. She had the 3 kids on the couch, and she said, kids, inflation is bad. You're not going to understand why, but one of you is going to have to go. We're kicking one of you out of the house. We can't afford to feed all 3 of you. And then she went, eeny, meeny, miny, and Eden flipped out, man. Hartzler, yesterday also on ABC 17, transgender sports. By the way, I want to look at some headlines from Missouri outlets, Missouri news outlets, as they talk about what happened with parental bill of rights and transgender sports yesterday in Jefferson City. If you are a taxpayer, this will affect you. If you have kids, this will affect you. If you have grandkids, this is something that will affect you.
Any school that receives federal dollars is under Title IX, and there is legislation that I've co-sponsored that says if you receive those funds, you have to keep women's sports for women.
And it's just real simple. And people say, well, they were on hormone blockers. Well, that does nothing for lung capacity because men scientifically have larger, I don't want to say better or superior. I don't want to say better or superior.
I don't want you to say that either.
We just have larger lung capacity.
So what you're saying is you're full of more air.
That's a hot take on it. You are accurate. And I don't want to say men's muscles are stronger than, I don't want to say men are stronger than women. I want to say that scientifically, men's muscles are bigger than women's. Because I don't want to, and it's just real simple. Even if you're taking these hormone blockers and all that stuff, and we're seeing it in local schools, one of the things that came up, what I thought was really interesting yesterday in the parental, so there's the Parental Bill of Rights, which is kind of separate of the transgender thing. That's big in Jefferson City. We're going to cover that more coming up at 8:10 this morning. But I was looking at some of the headlines because I would think, all these people who fought for women's rights. I remember the other thing back in the 70s, ERA, Equal Rights Amendment. Women were walking around Beale Air Force Base, California, topless because they wanted equal rights. And that was really what they did. And now you have it. Now nobody's trying. There's a few, especially the smart conservatives, trying to protect these young women. Say, man, we can't have dudes coming and playing sports with us. Remember all that stuff we fought for in the 70s, and now you're not standing up for us. But the headlines, one news outlet, Missouri leaders continue to take steps that would restrict trans women athletes. To me, it's got a bent, and I don't know if it's true, but it just feels like, restrict. No, we're not trying to restrict women's athletes. Wouldn't it be just as accurate of a headline if instead of saying Missouri leaders continue to take steps that would restrict trans women athletes, Missouri leaders continue to take steps that would protect women athletes?
Fair.
It'd be the same thing. St. Louis Post-Dispatch regarding schools. Missouri Republicans target schools, books, and race in latest culture war proposal. It's the headline, St. Louis Post-Dispatch. It's just, we're not targeting this stuff. It's not a culture war. It's a mess you have created that we are trying to clean up. It's not a culture war. It's a cleanup in aisle 7. Unbelievable.
Yeah, protect parents' rights to, educate their children as they see fit.
Amen. Coming up, Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell. What do you have for us today?
Hey, Biden has found a way to save us some money on gas.
Yay. And it's a horrible idea, by the way, because I know where we're going with this. Okay, as promised, inflation, unlike anything we have seen since prior to the birth of Hannah and Stephanie, a lot of folks, 1981, 82. So we're going to be featuring some bumper music today from the years 1981 through 82, but only the really crappy songs that were hot songs at the time that we thought was cool. 1981, Air Supply.
This is Woke Up Columbia. And not really. Just kidding. 93.9 The Eagle.
I'm not going to wait to take action to help American families. I'm doing everything within my power by executive orders to bring down the price and address the Putin price hike.
Joe Biden gets us into today's daily D.C. rundown. He's not waiting. He's proactive. But wait, you should have been proactive starting on January 20th of 2021.
Well, and what about Putin's price hike? I thought this was like COVID's fault that we were under inflation. He just keeps pointing the finger at the latest thing of it's not, it's like the person who's saying not it, and Joe Biden's standing there with just his finger on his nose saying like, not me.
It's like Oprah Winfrey when she gave away those Pontiacs. You get a Pontiac. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's everybody's fault except for mine.
Exactly. He does have a plan, though, to bring down gas prices, maybe as much as $0.10 a gallon.
Whoa!
Big savings.
We're
there.
ending inflation right here this morning on Wake Up Columbia.
That's right. So apparently he has this plan to waive the rules that restrict ethanol blending. I don't know enough about gas to understand what exactly that does, but apparently it could save us 10 cents a gallon.
And I don't know a whole lot about it either. That's why I always go to Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. But apparently it's somewhat of an inferior blend, and I think long term, so it uses a lot of corn. Corn prices would go up, and whatever. Just come on, Joe. Come on, man.
Also, the federal government, apparently a federal judge declined to detain these two folks who were impersonating Homeland Security agents and said, yeah, they can just go with a GPS monitor. I find this fascinating because not only did they completely trick other people whose job it is to not be tricked, then the FBI folks actually, I guess, accidentally let them know they were under investigation as well. So many things went wrong, and now we're just like, yeah, we're not going to detain you either. This is a mess.
Keystone Cops. Ben Shapiro hosts the night show here on 93.9 The Eagle. What happened when he showed up at a college campus recently? Hear that coming up at 6:35.
Stop by Club Car Wash to get an unlimited membership for just $20 a month.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. The manhunt continues for the suspect in the Brooklyn, New York subway shooting, which left 29 hurt yesterday.
One of the main discoveries was a U-Haul key, which police tracked down to a van roughly 5 miles from the site of the shooting. That van is being linked to 62-year-old Frank James, who police are calling a person of interest. There is a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of a suspect.
Fox's Lauren Blanchard, a tribute to comedian and actor Gilbert Gottfried, who died Tuesday after battling an illness.
The Gottfried family posted on social media, although today is a very sad day for all of us, please keep laughing as loud as possible to honor Gilbert.
From Disney on Broadway and Aladdin actor Don Darryl Rivera, Gottfried was 67 years old. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. Right now we do have some light rain falling here in mid-Missouri. It's 59 degrees. Light rain falling in Jefferson City as well. It is 57 there. Good morning, everyone, and here's some of the stories we are working on for you in this 6 o'clock hour. While Columbia, Jefferson City, and Boonville residents will see downpours and lightning this morning, the severe weather threat for mid-Missouri is low. National Weather Service St. Louis meteorologist Fred Glass says the severe weather threat is now to our east and southeast, including St. Louis and most of southeast Missouri. There is one county in the Eagle listening area that could see some strong storms today. That is Montgomery County.
There's certainly potential in that area for some pretty strong thunderstorms to develop. It might be right on. The storms might develop right in that area and then push to the east.
As the front moves through today, it'll get colder here in mid-Missouri. Meantime, Columbia's outgoing mayor describes the $240 million new I-70 Roachport Bridge project as a game changer. Missouri has received an $81 million federal grant for the Roachport Bridge project, largest competitive grant ever received by MoDOT. A Columbia man charged with Saturday's drive-by shooting near McKee Street Park has made his initial court appearance. He remains jailed without bond this morning. He is 19-year-old Marquez Elam, and a Sedalia man heading to federal prison for 10 years. He admits he tried to have the victim in his statutory sodomy case killed. Federal prosecutors say John Mark Wilson admits paying $2,000 to an undercover agent to murder his alleged victim in the separate state case. Prosecutors say he went into Cabela's. He bought 25 shotgun shells for the undercover agent to use in this murder. He admitted to all of that in court. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:33. In sports, the Cardinals and the Royals. Last night at Busch Stadium, behind 3 home runs, the Cardinals win it by a score of 6-5. The designated hitter, Albert Pujols, had a big home run in the ballgame. His first as a Cardinal since 2011. After the game, if you listen to the interview with Mike Claiborne here on 93.9 The Eagle and the Cardinals Baseball Network, he said one of the big things he wants to do is teach the younger players, teach them about baseball with any questions they have. He said all the older players taught him that 21 years ago. Really interesting interview. That was last night here on the Eagle. How about Salvador Perez? What a player for the Royals. He hit 2 massive home runs for Kansas City, and I mean massive. In the end, Cardinals win at 6-5. Cardinals and the Royals today, 12:15. Our first pitch, hopefully they'll be able to get it in. Weather certainly could be a factor. Our sports is brought to you this hour by the Better Business Bureau. You can find them online, bbb.org. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:34. Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Midmohires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Roads right now pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. It has been raining at times hard. We'll get another round basically between 7 and 10. Not expecting anything severe, but you can expect some downpours. We'll see those. We'll see some lightning as well, probably some thunder, but that is about it. And the Highway Patrol and National Weather Service reminding me to tell you to turn on your headlights. They always try to remind people to do that. Very important to do that in the rain. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes and breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
And now it's Albert Pujols. In the air. Out to deep left. It is gone! Welcome back, Albert. It's like you never left. Number 680. And he does it back in St. Louis.
Against the Kansas City Royals, and then the crowd gushing over him. He gets the big standing O. Goes into the dugout, comes back out celebrating his 446th home run as a Cardinal, 680. He could, maybe. I think it would be a stretch for him. He could get 20 more this year. 700 home runs. Future Hall of Famer, making Cardinals baseball. Making Cardinal baseball, I would say exciting again, but it's always exciting.
It was an amazing pitch, an amazing game. Not an amazing pitch, but I still... You cannot, not you, Branden, but just as a pitcher, you cannot throw him inside. I mean, he can get that bat around quickly. He has trouble running. There's no doubt about that. If you had to do something, I would walk him. You cannot throw a pitch like that. That thing was right And not to take anything away, Pujols did a great job, but boy, that was not a good pitch by the Kansas City pitcher.
Matter of fact, it was back-to-back home runs just before that. Arenado had homer. Cardinals 3-1 on the season. You can hear him all season long here on 93.9 The Eagle. That, of course, Brian Hauswirth. Looks like immediately heavy rain in mid-Missouri. What if we're traveling north, south? What if somebody's on the road today going elsewhere?
Great point, especially if people are going to St. Louis so quickly. To Kansas City, you're going to be okay today. Yesterday was the area of concern in Kansas City, so if you're going to the north to Kansas City, you're going to be okay. If you're heading to the east, Branden, obviously that's going to be problematic because that area could get heavy rain, and particularly if you're heading down, and especially a lot of lawmakers will be heading that way as well, southeast Missouri, southern Missouri, they're in basically the red area. I mean, we're looking at a potential major problem with tornadoes there.
So if you're traveling elsewhere in Missouri today, you might encounter issues. Stephanie Bell is here, too, coming up 6:50. She has a whole stack of her favorite lawyer jokes that she's going to be telling here on the show.
I do?
Do you get people sometimes come up and say, oh, I have a good lawyer joke. Are you offended? Do you get that?
Not really.
No, people don't ask. They just tell you?
They just tell me
and
lawyer
you probably
jokes.
heard them all the time anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I think we're one of the most hated professions. There are some others, I guess.
What's your favorite lawyer joke?
I don't know that I have one.
What are your three favorites?
I don't have one.
What's the one if a lawyer's drowning in a river and they start to come up for air, what do? You push them down harder or something like that? I don't know a lot of attorney jokes either. Hannah, the producer, is back and frowning. Glad you're here. Love the positivity, Hannah.
I'm just wondering why you're trying to tell a drowning joke.
It's not a drowning joke. It's a lawyer joke. My name is Branden Rathert. Welcome into the show. One of the things that's interesting, matter of fact, yesterday when I was hanging out at the airport and then here at the radio station, we had a chamber event yesterday. And I'll tell you, I had more people talk about the Roy Lovelady interview on the show yesterday. I was chatting with people within city government.
Sure.
Yeah, Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler was at the tour for the new airport terminal yesterday, which is supposed to be opening soon.
Can you tell me? Yeah, that's what I want to know. What's the date? Did they say or when the ribbon cutting is going to be?
So I did ask him. So there's been it's summer, and then I think the latest thing we heard was late summer. And I did ask Mike, when is the potential opening for the airport? Mike Parks is the director of the Columbia Regional Airport.
We're going to be close to Labor Day. I'll put it that way. It's going to be opened up near that time, so we won't have a precise date until a little bit closer.
We won't have a precise date until the day before.
We should make a bet on what's going to come sooner. The end of having to wear masks on the airplane or the terminal opening, because I think Biden had extended it through basically the end of April, and I have a flight like that last week, and I'm like, I'm kind of holding my breath, but not really, that like we get away from having to wear masks that last week.
The that bite there was really powerful. And that was good because he has not said that publicly about a specific, even though we don't have an exact date. The fact that he said Labor Day was significant. So, and I'm getting ready to post a story, by the way, on our website about this very issue. The Lovelady thing. I totally agree. That was a fascinating interview on a variety of things. I'm glad you asked him about the recount, but his comment to us about the violence at McKee Street, we had no idea it was a female that had been shot, but he knows her, and it shows how he's
plugged into what's happening. Yeah,
and I'd seen online speculation, but I can't go with that. But he confirmed it is a female.
So Roy Lovelady is the guy who boldly came forward, challenged too long term incumbent Carl Scala, who's been on the city council since forever. He's been there through trying to solve this trash problem for all of these years. All of the years Carl Scala has been on the city council, he hasn't been able to do it. But I bring that up because people said it was an interesting interview, and I had two people with unsolicited saying, I think it's great, because they've heard our conversations with Buffalo. Breonna Lennon, Boone County Clerk, she's a Democrat, but that doesn't matter. And I don't care if they're conservative or liberal. They're human beings. I want to hear. Even if we vehemently disagree with what they have to say, we bring them on. We invite them. And I think that's what smart people do.
That's right.
Ben Shapiro hosts Tonight Show here on 93.9 The Eagle. I think he comes on 7 o'clock each weeknight. He goes to colleges. I had a chance to meet him several years ago when he came to Mizzou's campus, 2015. Very smart guy. I want to see him and Gary Nolan debate. Gary Nolan hosts the Gary Nolan Show. He's a master debater. I would love to see Gary Nolan and Ben Shapiro do a debate. And not that I would pick, but it would just be interesting because they're both very good. So Ben Shapiro, he's University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and he's talking about this transgender stuff. Listen, you have scientific males and scientific females. If you want to be this, you want to get your surgery for that, that's fine. Most people do not care. But then when you start utilizing that to cheat by playing female sports, that's an issue. And on a college campus, that doesn't go over well because it is a differing point of view. Some of this I had to bleep. So here's the progressives. And again, this goes back to that mindset. Let's have a conversation about this, but instead of talking about facts like male, female, follow the science, it devolves into this.
I literally cited the DSM-5 in the speech, and it's called gender dysphoria, which is a term that I use throughout the speech, not gender identity disorder. You sound like a bozo, bro. And you get no and you can't even make it, but Phil, it's good.
So I had to beep because he starts criticizing his inability to please his wife. That's what the guy does who's saying this is why chicks should be playing dude sports. He can't argue anymore because he has no science, no facts, nothing else to go to. So what does he do? He criticizes Ben Shapiro's lovemaking ability.
And he uses the word bozo. It's been a long time since I've heard that word. I'm going to bring that back. That guy's a bozo.
Bozo? That's how they do it. That's what they do. I don't have any more facts. I can't prove or have a conversation or go, you know what? I hear your point. It's kind of interesting. Can't do that. Criticizing a guy's lovemaking ability. Ben Shapiro, though, always. By the way, same thing happened to Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, except nobody criticized his lovemaking ability. Ben Shapiro always gets the last word. So this kid that he's having this back and forth with that resorts to insults that may or may not be true. I've never heard Ben talk about that on his show here on 93.9 The Eagle. Instead of trying to give facts or I hear you, it's you're this, you're that. And the kid he's bragging about, he's got degrees in like astrophysics and all this, so he's a super smart dude.
I'm a mathematician and a physicist. You cannot tell me. So I have a question. If your logic is so flawed as a mathematician and a physicist, I would suggest that whichever institution gave you an award, revoke it immediately.
Bozo. Points. Anytime you use the word bozo in conversation today, we're giving you points.
I like it.
So that's Ben Shapiro. And that's what happened. You go to these places, and the point being, it's not about picking on college kids, although both of our stories emanate from colleges this morning, where I think a lot of this progressivism is taught. Thank God Hannah was able to escape with her common sense intact. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He's University of Buffalo. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, former congressman from Florida, former head of the GOP, served our country magnificently. And he's talking about race issues, CRT, perceived racism.
If you as a black man, let's be honest, you are a black man. How can you stand here in a room full of a lot of professors and validate your experiences? And then go to struggle no peace.
So no justice, no peace. So, and I know it's not the best audio, but that young lady who's not even questioning him or engaging in a dialogue. She is just criticizing him because she does not agree with the way he thinks. How can you as a black man say that this is not a widespread problem? Ridiculous. And Lieutenant Colonel Alan West later, he was asked about this, and he couldn't say it any better than Stephanie Bell could.
The progressive socialists left by way of fear, intimidation, coercion, and ultimately violence. This is how they suppress any other thoughts, free speech, and we cannot have that happening here in the United States of America.
And what's really terrifying, I mean, it's smart people who were doing this. I mean, it happened at Yale Law School. There was, I think it was the Alliance Defending Freedom showed up. They were talking about civil liberties. And, you know, people who were gotten into Yale who arguably have some sort of brain power, right, beat other people to these spots in Yale, came in and started shouting down, you know, a panel. And so the fact that, you know, people are so, you talk about like Trump derangement syndrome, but they're so triggered and like deranged and in a place of, I mean, because we've all known smart people in our life life who maybe like in terms of like getting a divorce, who like you're just like they're not, you know, behaving in a way that's rational, and so they are so triggered and so irrationally behaving that like it's insane. I mean, they've just gone completely insane. They can't talk about the issues and and they just want to shut down free speech. And again, these aren't not smart people. They're smart people, but I think something about society, something just gives them this empowerment, and they've completely lost track of what the country was founded on, right? And free speech is so important, and they just can't handle it. And maybe that's because they know they're going to lose on the issues. If they try to debate us on the issues,
yeah, they resort to talking about your lovemaking ability. That's the best that they can do. By the way, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West was escorted off, and which I think was interesting because he was, I don't know exactly how old he is, but I'm guessing he remembers the days when black students had to be escorted onto college campuses. And recently he is escorted off because they don't allow free speech. David Tyson Smith, by the way, is this Parent Bill of Rights goes through in Jefferson City. Missourian quotes him as saying, CRT is a phantom problem, and that is not an accurate statement from our local state representative. Right here, I have at least one example. He says CRT is a phantom problem. That is a lie. That is wrong. Either he is not educated on what's happening specifically in Columbia Public Schools, either he doesn't know or he is lying. I have an assignment right here, this second grader. The question, would you recommend starting a colony in the Americas? Why do you feel that way? No, because I would feel bad about what we did to the black people. That is a homework assignment from the Columbia Public School District. Right next to the kid who got lunch suspension. Or got lunch detention because he refused to watch CNN in a classroom.
That's my favorite.
Right? Won't watch CNN, didn't want to listen to Democrats. And I think David Tyson Smith, and maybe correcting and realizing what he said when he was quoted by the Missourian as saying CRT is a phantom problem. We know that is a lie, or he doesn't know. He went on to say, the rest of the quote, CRT is almost exclusively taught in higher education. Almost. Inflation, worst it's been in 81, 82. A lot of folks have never even experienced anything like this in their adult life. And Stephanie had a great idea yesterday. Let's highlight music from the 81, 82. But let's make it all the crappy music. So we're doing that. It's kind of fun. Some of these things, you're like, oh my God, I haven't heard that song.
So you kind of lose track of how long ago that really was. For those of us who, are my age, I kind of think of the 80s and I still kind of think like it's 20 years ago, not 40 years ago. And so we talked about stuff that went on there. Thriller came out then. It was the first episode of the David Letterman show. And this was a long time ago since we have been in a position this bad.
All right, coming up 6:53. Might we be getting some new flights soon to the Columbia Regional Airport? Was asking Mike Parks about that yesterday. That's coming up at 6:53. Here's one of those songs from when inflation was last this bad. Bertie Higgins, Key Largo. Listen carefully, because now there are new treatments available here, and I'm not talking surgery or steroids. These are regenerative treatments from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. Hi, this is Branden Rathert. QC Kinetics is the leader in these exciting biologic therapies that help restore and repair damaged tissue in your joints with lasting results. If you've got pain in your knees, shoulders, hip, back, joint pain that won't go away, you need to check out these new treatments with astonishing patient satisfaction reports. They can actually help your body restore and repair itself with no downtime, no drugs, no surgery. Don't go through another year with that awful joint pain, and don't let them put you under the knife. You need to learn more about how biologic therapies are changing the way that we think about dealing with joint pain. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now, 573-545-5588. That's 573-545-5588. 573-545-5588.
Moving forward with Branden Rathert and Wake Up Columbia. 93.9 The Eagle.
Say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay. Can he stay in the NBA, or because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game?
You know, we rely on politicians and social leaders and all of these folks to try to explain it to us, and sometimes the power of a comedian to speak the absolute positive truth and to break it down. We need more comedians in this world.
We really do. They're so good. My favorite that you've played recently was Jimmy Fallon on the guy who got all of the vaccines, and he said, you know, this guy got 80 vaccines. He could eat a fried bat and he'd be fine. It was very good.
Stephanie Bell, Hannah, the producer, Brian Hauswirth is here. My name is Branden Rathert. Heavy showers throughout the day. Yesterday, National Weather Service talking about the potential for some real severe weather right now. We're mostly expecting Columbia, Fulton, Jefferson City, Centralia, Fayette, Boonville. Mostly just heavy showers. Now, if you are heading south, Jefferson City, even south of Jefferson City, heavier showers down there. Glad you could be here. A couple of cool things coming up on the show. There was a Win Awards luncheon in town yesterday. As a matter of fact, the second female coach in the NFL, not head coach, but a coach in the NFL, first one to go to a Super Bowl. She was with the San Francisco 49ers when our Chiefs beat them a couple of years ago. She was in town yesterday and gave a speech, and she did bring up some interesting things, talking about her 5 main pillars of advice. We'll be highlighting that probably 8:10 this morning as House debate heats up over the Parental Bill of Rights in Jefferson City. Also, the other thing that's happening, Mike Parks, yesterday, tour for the under-construction terminal. I'll tell you, seeing it, it's going to be gorgeous. Talked about the potential for new flights coming soon.
Just had several meetings with different airlines and also met with American Airlines. There's no announcement that we can make at this time, but we're going to continue having those conversations, and we're hopeful that we can have an announcement at some point during this year.
That's the best I can give you this morning, Steph. Still working on it. I'm still wanting that flight to Denver.
Charlotte.
Congressman Billy Long. What's happening in D.C. this morning? He's going to be joining us at 7:10. Good morning. I am Branden Rathert. I want to pass this along to you. You know, you've heard me, any of us here on this show, for any amount of time. You know, we are a big fan of local businesses, our small local businesses, medium-sized, big local businesses. They are the backbone of Mid-Missouri's economy. Well over probably 75%. That's important. So you work hard. You're doing all of this stuff. You ought to have the Better Business Bureau on your side, too, because as a business owner, you have resources at your fingertips to help your business grow, and not just grow, but people can get a feel about you. I mean, because you can say, hey, we're here, we're open, or we provide this service, but folks also want to know, but do you provide good service? If I have an issue, are you going to work with me to resolve that? I would think this is something you'd be interested in. You can contact the Better Business Bureau, bbb.org. You can also call them, 314 area code 645-3300 for the Better Business Bureau.
President Biden calls what's happening in Ukraine genocide. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News, and he's again condemning the killing of civilians by Russian troops in Ukraine. Live in Washington, here's Fox's Jessica Rosenthal.
Chris, in a speech at an ethanol plant in Iowa, the president talked about easing gas prices, saying an American family's budget planning shouldn't hinge on a dictator's genocide half a world away. Later, when boarding Air Force One in Des Moines, he was asked if he meant to use that term, genocide, which he'd previously rejected.
Yes, I called it genocide because it's become clearer and clearer that Putin is just trying to wipe out the idea of even being able to be a Ukrainian.
Biden said the evidence is mounting, things are different than they were just a week ago, and that while it will be up to international investigators and lawyers to determine if genocide was committed, it sure seemed that way to him. Chris.
And Jessica, the presidents of Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia have arrived in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, to meet with President Vladimir Zelensky. New York City police and federal law enforcement are looking for a person of interest in yesterday's shooting at a subway station. Fox's Tanya J. Powers is live in New York.
Chris, officials have identified Frank James as a person of interest, but they're not calling him a suspect. New York City Mayor Eric Adams said on ABC's Good Morning America today that 4 people of the nearly 30 injured are still in the hospital. Investigators are looking at James' apparent social media posts, some of which are critical of Mayor Adams, leading officials to tighten his security detail. YouTube videos apparently posted by James, who is black, contain violent language and bigoted comments, sometimes directed at other black people. Chris.
Tanya J. Powers in New York. Thanks. New York State's Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin has resigned after his arrest and indictment on federal corruption charges. He's accused of funneling $50,000 in state funds to a real estate developer's nonprofit in exchange for illegal campaign donations steered Benjamin's way when he ran for office in New York City last year. Dow futures up just a bit ahead of the opening bell on Wall Street. America's listening to Fox News.
Near historically low mortgage rates may not last forever. If you're in the market for a new home or your dream home, go with a lender you can count on. For competitive rates, over 300 loan products and thousands of loan consultants to help make sure you get the home and the mortgage that you want. Call now to see if you're pre-approved. 866-888-LOAN. 866-888-LOAN. Or go to LoanDepot.com. Loan Depot, where home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50 states.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/trial. That's ZipRecruiter.com/trial.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 7:03 right now. We do have light rain falling in mid-Missouri. No severe weather threat right now in Columbia nor Jefferson City. 59 is our current temperature. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories we're working on for you at this hour. The severe weather threat for mid-Missouri this morning has ended after a cold front undercuts a line of storms. NWS meteorologist Jonathan Kurtz tells the Eagle a cold front pushing out well ahead of the activity area.
And that means that the storms that are left over are basically on top of a more stable air mass, and that has really limited the severe factor here this morning. So not really looking at any severe thunderstorms here this morning for mid-Mo. Should be pretty much just some rumbles of thunder, brief bouts of moderate rainfall for everyone out there.
There is a severe weather threat for late this morning and today for areas to our east. That includes St. Louis as well as Farmington, southeast Missouri as well. Again, all of that has moved off to our east. Originally, for those of you who went to bed last night, we were expected to have 2 different rounds of storms, one from 3 to 5 this morning. That did not happen. The other one from 9 to 11. There is one county in our listening area that could get some severe weather. That is Montgomery County. Montgomery County sits right on I-70. We'll talk more about them specifically coming up at the bottom of the hour. Meantime, a Columbia man charged with Saturday's drive-by shooting near McKee Street Park has made his first court appearance.
19-year-old Marquez Elam of Columbia is charged with 3 felonies, including first-degree assault. Elam made his initial court appearance on Tuesday via video, and a public defender has been appointed to represent him. Columbia police say the drive-by shooting left the victim with life-threatening injuries. The incident happened on Orchard Lane in broad daylight. Don Luzader, 93.9 The Eagle.
The Moberly parolee, who is a convicted murderer who barricaded himself inside a home for more than 20 hours before coming out yesterday, is now back in prison. We have confirmed that with the Missouri Department of Corrections. Stephen Thorpe is back in the prison in Fulton. He'll have to serve the rest of his sentence for second-degree murder. Many of you weighing in on this issue on our Facebook page, 93.9 The Eagle's Facebook page. I've been responding to a lot of your questions about why he was out to begin with. You can take a look at that, 93.9 The Eagle Facebook. Boone County's new treasurer is a familiar name in business as well as agriculture. Governor Mike Parson has appointed Stanton Brothers Eggs co-owner and operator Dustin Stanton to the post. Stanton's 29 years old. He tells 93.9 The Eagle's Wake Up Columbia the treasurer's position traditionally is bipartisan. However, he emphasizes he is a fiscal conservative.
My priorities really is transparency first and foremost. I think that the money of the government is not necessarily government's. I'm pretty strong on that conviction, and I believe the money of the government is the money of the people, and so they need to know where it's going.
Stanton replaces a former Boone County Treasurer, Tom Darrow. He resigned in January to work with a not-for-profit organization. And Columbia's outgoing mayor describes the $240 million new I-70 Roachport Bridge project as a game changer. The mayor of Columbia, Brian Treese, notes that trucks across the I-70 Roachport Bridge are in 48 different states within 48 hours.
I think is going to protect Columbia and mid-Missouri's logistical asset for the rest of the country, and the number of trucks that come across that bridge, either delivering goods and services to Columbia or exporting Columbia's goods and services to the rest of the world, I think is going to be a real game changer.
That's Mayor Brian Treese. He has noted that Oscar Mayer hot dogs are made right here in Columbia, and those products cross the Roachport Bridge. Missouri has received an $81 million federal grant for the Roachport Bridge project, largest competitive grant ever received by MoDOT. 93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you in the 7 o'clock hour by the Candy Factory. They're in downtown Columbia, and they can help you fill your Candy Factory baskets for Easter. Find them online, thecandyfactoryonline.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:07. Turning our attention now to sports. Cardinals beating the Royals last night at Busch Stadium by a score of 6-5. 3 home runs in the ball game. Albert Pujols had one of them. You heard the call from Dan McLaughlin that Branden played last hour, and Pujols getting a curtain call, having to come out of the dugout. He doesn't like to do that, but of course the crowd wanted it, and he made it in and out and was able to do it. Huge ovation for Albert after the game. He tells Mike Claiborne that he really likes helping the younger players. They can always come to him with questions. He wants to help them like the older players helped him when he was a rookie. Salvador Perez, by the way, is there a better hitter in the American League than Salvador Perez with power that hits like that? Goodness gracious, those 2 monster home runs for the Royals last night. What a player he is. Cardinals win it 6-5. 12:15 first pitch today. Businessman special at Busch Stadium. We hear it live right here on 93.9 The Eagle. Hopefully they'll get it in. Weather certainly could be a factor. Our sports brought to you by Tiger Towing. When you can't get going, call Tiger Towing. 573-449-3754. TigerTowing.com. Our news time, 7:08. All right, John, thanks so much. Right now we do have a lot of clouds outside. The sky is almost black behind Branden there, and there is some rain falling. 59 degrees. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Again, expect downpours, expect lightning, expect thunder. The good news is we will not see, according to the National Weather Service, we will not see any severe weather, no tornadoes, anything like that today. The severe threat is off to our east and southeast right now, but we will certainly see a lot of heavy rain. We'll have another update for you coming your way at the bottom of the hour. Breaking news immediately. immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
We know we're going to get crime under control, and the problem we're facing is a problem that is hitting our entire nation right now. And that is why this is a national response. We need a national response to this issue.
There it is, like 3 seconds following what happened in New York City on the subway yesterday. Gun control, national gun control. Meanwhile, they went a way different direction in Georgia. The governor there signing legislation says, hey, we're protecting your rights. The other thing that happened in New York, and I was watching this yesterday, me and Brian Hansen, the star of the Gary Nolan show, were in here yesterday, and Kathy Hochul, the governor of California, gets up to talk about this subway thing, and I'm like, I wonder if anybody's going to ask her about the lieutenant governor who was arrested in a federal campaign donation scheme charge, in an alleged federal campaign donation scheme. He was arrested, and then after he got arrested, and nobody asked her about that yesterday, by the way, which is appropriate in that situation for what they were dealing with. But afterwards, later in the day, he thought, or somebody told him maybe, thought, yeah, it might be a good idea to just resign. No. Want to bring in Congressman Billy Long, Rep. Southwest Missouri, obviously running for Senate, gave one heck of a speech here in town this past Friday night at our Boone County Lincoln Days with 93.9 The Eagle. Billy, I got to ask, this is so predictable anymore. Whenever there's a shooting, we know it's coming. Typically, you're walking in the hallways, Washington, D.C., there's a shooting incident, somebody starts calling for gun control. Tell me about those glances that the smart people are shooting towards each other in Washington, D.C.
Well, it's always the same thing, and it's from these cities that have real tight gun regulations, gun control. So it doesn't, that's always their fallback is let's grab everybody's guns, let's grab everyone's guns. And when you say, hey, this is Chicago, this is New York City, you all have the tightest gun control regulations anywhere. It's illegal to carry. It just hopefully falls on deaf ears because people are not going to take away our Second Amendment rights, try as they may.
And we were highlighting people trying to take away people's First Amendment rights. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West on a college campus had to be escorted out because the progressive left didn't want to hear his message. This black gentleman who served our country, has served in politics, didn't want to hear it. They disagree with it, so they go after him. He has to be escorted out. Ben Shapiro, who hosts a show here weeknights on 93.9 The Eagle, he gets insulted about his intimacy abilities because some astrophysicist can't present facts as it relates to gender. It's just crazy. Here's another crazy idea, Congressman. I want to play this because here's the thing that scares me, and you're closer to it. Obviously, you're in D.C. People start talking about weird things like this, and I think, man, some of these people think this is a real good idea. This thought yesterday on MSNBC, New York Police Department. I want to play the audio so you just don't think I'm making something up. Says the New York Police Department should start monitoring gun shows and hanging outside and writing down license plate numbers.
Why isn't the NYPD going and parking out front of gun shows and starting to take, license plates down of people who are coming from New York to purchase guns out of state?
Congressman, how do you react to that?
It just people go crazy anytime you mention a gun, and that's just a prime example. And there's no telling where this guy, his gun came from yesterday. Thankfully, it jammed. That was one thing that saved a lot of people's lives yesterday. But, they always want to blame gun shows and all this stuff that's just malarkey. I was an auctioneer for 31 years. I sold a ton of guns. I heard you advertising for my buddy's Atterbury auction service there in Columbia. Of course, I know the Atterburys have sold their business a few years ago, but Larry and Judy and Larry Jr. and all of them, I go back 35, 40 years with them now. And we sold a lot of guns very successfully over the years, and they tried to do everything they could. They didn't want one neighbor to be able to sell a gun to another neighbor or let us auction them off. And they always want to blame auctions and gun shows. And they just want to find any scapegoat they can to try and take away our Second Amendment right.
And the scapegoat should be their policies and their mindset. In New York City, gun control. Already got the strictest gun control laws in America. And the Atterbury folks, AtterburyCells.com, that whole group, those are really good people. Congressman Billy Long joining us this morning here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle.
So I guess Biden has announced a plan that he thinks he can save us 10 cents a gallon on gas. What can be done about the high prices, and what do you think about Biden's plan?
Well, I think that he had a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome, and he tried to undo everything good that Donald J. Trump had done for 4 years in the White House. He had this country running on all cylinders. All Biden had to do was show up and shut up. All he had to do was show up and just let the Trump economy keep going. And instead of that, he stopped Keystone XL pipeline. He did everything he could to decimate. I said this in a committee hearing the other day, that he said he was going to ruin American energy production, and by golly, he's done it. Corn's already gone from $3 to $7, and I'm sure the corn producers who call on us in Washington all the time are happy with that. But this Ukraine situation, that's a bread basket. And if that food's not coming out of Ukraine, which it probably won't be, there's going to be shortages of food, including corn, worldwide. And so I don't know that it's a really good idea to be burning corn to try and save a dime a gallon on gasoline when you can go and especially what it does to some of these small. I fish a lot. I'm a bass fisherman, and you can't put that in your outboard motor unless you want to go to the repair shop the next day. So you got to look for things that don't have ethanol in them. There's a lot of small engines, same way, the lawnmower folks and everyone. So I'm trying to say I want to take a food source right now when we're going to have a terrible, terrible shortage of food in the world. I don't think it's just a typical Bidenism,
Congressman, we appreciate your time, and thank you for the interview on Friday night. I enjoyed visiting with you, and I appreciate the time of talking about your campaign. I don't think you've been on the show since this happened, so I'll ask you, because it was a big deal. It was in March. We had, as you know, and you were there, and you reacted to it, but three Joplin police officers were shot in March in your district. At least one, I know, has died. I'm not sure about the other two. I haven't heard much since. Your reaction to that, and is there anything new to report with the other officers, Congressman?
The second one was effectively brain dead at the time, and he was an organ donor, and they did remove his organs shortly thereafter. So we lost two officers in Joplin. Another one severely injured, had shot in the face, which will have a long, long road of recovery. And this is Joplin, Missouri. This is a town of 50,000 people. Apparently there was some type of a disturbance or crazy guy at a jean store there in Joplin, and the employees were rightfully scared of this guy, so they called the police. They came out and had the guy. Apparently the story was they had him on the ground and were cuffing him or getting ready to take him in, and he pulls a gun out from somewhere and shoots both of the cops, then turns around and stands up over them, shoots them execution style in the head. And then they were grabbed their car, took off in their car. Of course, a pursuit ensued, and they another police officer showed up, and he shot him through the windshield in the jaw, like I said, and then they finally took the perpetrator down. But and I never did get an exact story on. There was rumors that he was homeless. There was rumors that they know he was from Arizona, and he'd been in the Joplin area for a few years. He was a known character to the local police down there. But just, I don't know how you get anyone to serve as a police officer these days with all the vitriol. They've criminalized the profession of being a policeman. I mean, they've got people thinking that being a cop is a bad thing. Mm-hmm. And one interesting thing, Brian, I talked to the former police chief down there, and he said, Billy, when I started, he said, people call up and they say, hey, I bet you're glad you're out of policing. And he said, no, I'm not. He said, if it wasn't for my age, I would still be in it. But he said, I started in 1971, and we were pigs. And he said, we were pigs until 9/11, and we became heroes on 9/11. And now we're back to pigs again with this Black Lives Matter stuff. And, of course, you've seen all the stories lately about the big, huge mansions that the leaders
Mm-hmm.
of Black Lives Matter have, purchased for themselves. And I think in Washington it's still on the street. It says, Black Lives Matter Avenue or something, and it's just ridiculous. And then, but heard this morning on the news, I don't know if your local news or national news, but they said that it was a dark-skinned individual that they were looking for in Washington. I mean, in New York City. So yep. I don't know if they were Asian or whether they were American Indian or what nationality or what color they were, because they sure didn't want to say that he was African American, which everyone has seen on the videotapes.
And we see that here a lot locally, too. When there's a description somebody's committed a crime, they will intentionally, in my opinion, they will leave well, we can't say that we're looking for a black guy because it's racist. Congressman Billy Long, before we let you go, I want to let you 50% of our show here this morning. Maybe more if you include interns and some of the peripheral members of the show. The majority of our show, they have never lived through times like this. Following yesterday's latest inflation numbers, which, by the way, were not a surprise, 1981, 82. Hannah, the producer, Stephanie Bell, other folks, they have not even, to give you an idea, and I think this is how we should talk about this, these people, the two people, at least in this room right now, they have never seen that. That's how bad inflation is right now. As a matter of fact, we're playing crappy songs for bumper music all morning. A great idea from Stephanie Bell from 81 and 82. But I want to ask you a little bit of perspective, and I've got like 30 seconds, and I'll give you 30 seconds for closing comments. What were you doing late 70s, early 80s? Give some perspective.
I was an auctioneer. As a real estate broker. I was not an auctioneer, and the interest rates were 16, 17, 18% because we had the second worst president ever, Jimmy Carter. I had to go off to Kansas City to Missouri Auction School, learn how to auction homes off. And so that Jimmy Carter and his inflation at the time and high gas prices and everything sent me to auction school.
All right. Before you go, anything else that you would like to add, Congressman Billy Long and Senate candidate?
There was a real interesting purchase this week by Eric Schmidt's PAC, over $1 million. What I found really interesting was that $278,000 of it, I believe, is going to be spent a week before. It's all going to be spent a week before the election, which is about 90-some days out now, I guess, or 100 days. And but it was on over-the-air broadcast TV. Where? Kansas City, Missouri. Now, what's Eric Schmidt doing spending? I think that Vicky's going to have some real strong attacks coming in from the Eric Schmidt camp right before the election, which could change the outcome of the. And I'm hoping that all these people spend all their money from their millionaires, billionaires, attacking each other, and they look at the guy in Springfield and say, hey, can a normal guy go? I mean, not a guy that's not a career politician, a guy that's got the most conservative voting record of anyone in the state. I'm hoping people will take a look at me, just like President Trump said today, hey, have you looked at Billy Long? Because that is a big buy, and he didn't spend a nickel in St. Louis. And so he either thinks he's king of the hill in St. Louis and doesn't need to spend money there, or he thinks that he's going to spend money later on. But if I was Vicky, I'd be a little nervous about Eric Schmidt spending $278,000 in a 1 week period on broadcast TV in Kansas City, because Kansas City's Vicky's to lose. I mean, that's kind of her area up there. So
all right, Congressman.
We'll see how that shakes out. But give out my website there, BillyLong.com. And like I said the other night, you don't vote wrong, vote long, and don't be silly. Vote for Billy.
Congressman Billy Long, always a fun time chat with you. So crappy music from 1981, 82. Last time that inflation was this bad, Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder, Ebony and Ivory.
An eye on the nation, an eagle eye on mid-Missouri. Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert. 93.9, The Eagle.
A swing and a fly ball left field. That's deep. Back to the track, the wall. It's a gunner. A two-run homer for Nolan Arenado. 2-0 Cardinals in the first inning.
Right after that, back-to-back home runs. Albert Pujols comes up and clubs his 680th career home run. Cards beat the Royals last night. Brian's going to have more on this in sports coming up at 7:30 on 93.9 The Eagle. Right now, 7:25-ish, which means it's
still 7:28.
Time for What's Hot with Hannah.
It's nice to know that even when I take days off, you're still consistent.
I'm very consistent. I'll call that. I'll put that in the good.
I have posted a video to the Wake Up Columbia Facebook page that I personally think is hilarious. You might not think it's as funny, but it's a baby elephant with his leg stuck in a tire swing, and he's struggling for several seconds before his mom comes to try to help him out of the swing. And once she gets him out of the swing, she picks up the tire swing and kind of throws it get out of here, you piece of you-know-what. I don't know. It's just funny. It's a dreary day. I thought it was cute, and I think it'd be worth checking out.
That's the countdown till the time Hannah, the producer, gets a letter from PETA for joking about a baby pachyderm with its leg stuck in a tire.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Coming up, 7:35. We know there's a lot of talk about Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft running for governor. He has not officially told us anything. We do know Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe has said, yes, I am going to run for governor of Missouri. How come? Why? Why does he think he can win? He's going to answer those questions for you coming up at 7:35.
Stop by Club Car Wash to get an unlimited membership for just $20 a month. See more details at clubcarwash.com.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. Presidents of 4 nations have arrived in Ukraine in a show of support. Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, all NATO countries, which worry they may face Russian attack in the future, if Ukraine falls. This is the international community tries to step up pressure against Russian President Putin.
Putin is calling the atrocities in Bucha fake. He's declaring peace talks dead. He's shrugging isolation and sanctions off, and he's threatening any country that interferes in Ukraine with consequences. Now, that comes as new satellite images are showing Russian forces redeploying and moving into eastern Ukraine, where we anticipate that new offensive with more shelling and fighting in the south in places like Mariupol.
Fox's Griff Jenkins in Lviv, and an ISIS supporter is given a whole life sentence for stabbing a British lawmaker to death last year. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 7:31. 59 is our current temperature right now in Columbia. We do have partly cloudy skies. The rain has stopped, at least temporarily. We'll get more rain here very shortly, and it'll rain until about 11 o'clock or noon today. 57 in Jefferson City. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories we are working on for you at this hour. First Lady Jill Biden and the U.S. Secretary of Education will be heading to the Show Me State shortly, and they'll be visiting Knob Noster for a series of education events. They'll be at Whiteman Air Force Base, highlighting the month of the military child. They'll also be talking about programs that support military-connected students. That is according to KY3 television in Springfield. While Columbia, Jefferson City, and Boonville residents will be seeing downpours and lightning this morning. The severe weather threat for mid-Missouri right now is very low for the rest of the day. National Weather Service St. Louis meteorologist Fred Glass tells the Eagle that severe weather threat is now to our east and southeast. That includes St. Louis and almost all of southeast Missouri. There is one county in our listening area that could see strong storms. That's Montgomery County that sits on I-70.
There's certainly potential in that area for some pretty strong thunderstorms to develop. It might be the storms might develop right in that area and then push to the east.
As the front moves today, it'll get colder here in mid-Missouri, gusty northwest winds as well. Columbia's outgoing mayor describes the new I-70 Roachport Bridge project as a game changer. Missouri has received an $81 million federal grant for the project, and a Columbia man charged with a drive-by shooting Saturday near McKee Street Park remains jailed without bond this morning. Our news brought to you by Dr. Kent Willett Dental Associates, WillettDentalAssociates.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:33. In sports, businessman special coming up today between the Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals. Weather certainly will be playing a factor. Hopefully they'll get the game in. If you are going, definitely you'll need an umbrella. And some actually potentially severe weather could be happening in St. Louis today, so be very careful. If you can't make it, and of course, we'll have coverage 93.9 The Eagle. 12:15, the first pitch is what it's scheduled for. There's a system that should be right in that area at that time. Tom Ackerman will have the pregame coverage. You'll have a better idea of the forecast when they get into the pregame show in the 11 o'clock hour. Last night, Cardinals beat the Royals at Busch 6-5. Pujols, one of 3 Cardinal home runs. He was 3 for 4. Salvador Perez for Kansas City, 2 home runs. Cardinals win it by a score of 6-5. Sports brought to you this hour by Adam Kinser, ServiceMaster of Columbia.com, 573-443-8383. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:34. Traffic check, MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. It is 7:34. Roads have been pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. If you are out and about and see something we need to know about, including, for instance, that high-speed pursuit that went through Columbia from Jefferson City this morning, we appreciate people letting us know about that. You can give us a call or a text, 573-874-9390. We'll have more team coverage in less than 30 minutes. We have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Now you got infrastructure decade, 10 years.
President, yes. That could have happened last week when Barack was at the White House and everybody's flocking to Barack, and Joe is just kind of walking around, and not because of the old bumbling guy thing, but because nobody wanted to talk to him, like he was alone. And I've been in those situations, and personally, I don't know if anybody else has ever been in one of those situations, but you're at an event or a gathering and you can't get into one of them conversation circles and you feel like you're on the outside of it. I remember the worst example of this ever happening. We were picking up some hardware at the Missouri Broadcasters Award Association show several years ago. And the guy who played Greg Brady on the Brady Bunch, somebody help me out. Text 874-9390. Can't remember his name, but Greg, the guy who played the oldest brother in the Brady Bunch, he's got a theater in Branson.
He was there?
He was there.
Wow.
He was the MC of the events, and he kept saying, at first we thought he was like joking around, but when actually the Eagle, our radio station, this show was picking up awards for our coverage of the unrest on the Mizzou campus of 2015. And Greg Brady, what was his name in real life? Somebody, 874-9390. He said, and for their work on unrest at the Mizzou campus, Brad Trinago, Branden Rathert. And we get up there and like, that's funny. Instead of saying Mizzou, he said Mizzou. And we're like, that's kind of funny. And then he kept doing it throughout the night. Somebody finally said to the guy, hey, just so you know, It's not Mizzou, it's Mizzou. Anyhow, after the award show, there's a big drink fest afterwards and pictures. And, of course, everybody's lining up with Greg Brady, the oldest brother from the Brady Bunch, and getting pictures. And then everybody got their pictures. And he's just standing there. This guy who is probably one of the most famous people of the 70s is standing there by himself. Nobody's paying attention to him.
Barry Williams.
Barry Williams.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Aaron.
Wow.
Thank you. Appreciate the text at 874-9390. 874-9390. Ed, you know it too. Who is it we're talking about?
It's Barry Williams.
Barry
He plays
Williams.
The oldest brother.
The
Yes,
oldest
sir.
brother. Thank you, man. I
Yes.
appreciate the help, bud. So that was Joe Biden, this audio. Joe Biden.
Now you got infrastructure.
He's just like goofing around, and he goes up to a mic and like hits the mic like, is this thing work? And it's totally a joke. You can see Joe doing this. Well, the mic, and so the mic feeds back and all that good stuff. This is Wake Up Columbia. Good morning, Stephanie Powell.
Good morning.
Mr. Brian Hauswirth.
Good morning, sir.
Hannah, the producer, is here.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert, and the only guy that I know of, the only person that I'm aware of, there's a lot of talk about several people potentially running for governor of Missouri in 2024, but there's only one that I'm aware of that says, yes, I'm going to do it. That is Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, who joins us on 93.9 The Eagle. Now, Lieutenant Governor, it's good to have you back on the show. What is it that you said, okay, I want to run for governor? Why do you want to run?
First of all, Barry Williams, but I'm too late for that.
Thank you, Mike.
I didn't want to let Brian Hauswirth down. He knew I was looking that up while you were asking that question. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for having me on. Your two co-hosts are great friends of mine as well for a long time. The whole thing came up, I think most people know, a year ago-ish when Roy Blunt announced he was not going to seek another term in the Senate. Multiple people had, names being thrown in a basket of who's all going to run for Senate. And, I like the dummy that I am, a small business guy. Somebody said, well, if you're not going to run for Senate, what are you going to do? And I said, well, Governor Parsons termed out. I think, Claudia and I will we think we can, play a better role in the governor's race. It was kind of a casual mention that I learned my lesson on. Don't do casual mentions anymore. So it took on a life of its own. And some folks, I've been fortunate enough earlier this year for several organizations to come out and say, hey, if this is what you're doing, we want to get with you. And it organically kind of grew without us making any real official statements. So, but yes, we think that I think that my personal opinion is Mike and Teresa have done a great job working and leading our state through some incredible times. And I would like to continue that, conversation that we have, that keeping a business guy in the executive branch that has, run businesses across the state and understands both the ag economy and the urban economy, because I've lived in both markets for half of my life in each. Can add something to the conversation on how we lead and take the state forward. So I believe that we have the skill set to have that conversation and to actually govern, to not only have positions that are near and dear to your heart, that are core to you, that you will not give up for anything, but hold on to those positions and then also make decisions to move the state forward. That's what, leadership and business people do, and I believe I can do that for Missourians.
Lieutenant Governor, let me ask you this. You said this kind of started with Blunt's decision last year to say, I'm not seeking re-election for the U.S. Senate. We saw the domino effect, and I want you to be as honest as you can for the benefit of our listener this morning. What happens behind the scenes? And I'm asking this because we've got a lot of, I think, super talent when it comes to conservatives in Missouri. I really believe that. I think our Senate race between Billy Long, Hartzler, Eric Schmidt, Mark McCloskey, I think it is deep, and it's the challenge. Which one do I pick? What kind of conversations do you all, when I say you all, I mean you and other elected Republicans, how do you jockey behind the scenes? Do you have conversations like, well, Eric, you run for this and I'll run? How much does that happen?
Well, I don't know that I don't know that I was a part, and none of those folks that I know in the top, if you take the top 5 or 6, I know, as you know, there's, I think, 17 people running for U.S. Senate or some number. But if you take the top 5 or 6 names that you hear about on the Republican side, all but one I had personal conversations with, just to find out what they're thinking, what they think their skill sets are, where could I fit in that, if I can fit in that, and so I did have personal conversations. Now, that's unusual in our business, as some of you guys know. Sometimes the political consultant talks to a political consultant about their client. Somebody told me to do that. I said, I'm not doing that. I'm calling Eric directly. I'm calling Vicki directly. I'm calling Billy directly. I'm going to talk to these folks and find out what they're thinking, what their strategy might be, and where I'm going to play. And so just through those conversations, it became clear to me that some of those folks' heart was more in Washington, D.C., and they thought they could play a better role there. God love the people that go to Washington, D.C. We have a great delegation both in Congress on the Republican side and in the Senate, obviously. I just didn't think that was as good a fit for me. Born and raised in Missouri, never lived anywhere else. The state's been incredibly good to me. I love the people in this state, and I like spending more time here. And then a couple of those folks said to me that were very good friends that would have also said, hey, join, get in. Is that, they think that if you looked at the governor's race, it's more of a role for somebody who has been, kind of a leader of a business. And it's more of a, certainly I don't consider myself as a CEO, but it's more of a CEO type operation where you're running a small business that's actually pretty large, but you're running a business as a governor versus as a U.S. senator. It's not that same kind of function as you move through life. So that's how we made the decision. And yes, I had conversations with those folks. Many of them are very good friends of mine I've known for a long time, and Missourians are going to have an unbelievable choice. It doesn't matter what you like or don't like about candidates. In the U.S. Senate race, there's going to be somebody that fits you pretty closely. I'll guarantee you that.
Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, John, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're seeing at least immediately in Columbia, it's really dark. We are expecting heavy rain, but right now, no severe warnings, watches, or threats. Before we move forward, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe joining us on the show says he is going to run for governor. You said of the 5 or 6 major U.S. Senate candidates, you've had personal conversations with them, except for one. Who's the one you didn't talk to?
I didn't have a chance to reach out to Mr. Greitens. I think it's kind of tough to get a hold of him anyway, but I did talk to the other folks.
That has been our experience too. I've reached out on more than one occasion for him to come on the show, and they just won't do it.
Branden, thanks. And Lieutenant Governor, we appreciate you joining us. Just a very quick weather note to Branden's point, especially for people in their cars right now. The sky is basically black outside, and I have talked to the National Weather Service, as Branden knows, all morning. He and I were here at the station at 3. They did expect this between 7 and 10. They said that we would see some very heavy downpours and lightning and thunder. But again, for people, just the biggest thing they emphasize is turn your headlights on. But there are no warnings, and I'll have more audio with them coming up at 8:03. Lieutenant Governor, thank you again for joining us. There's something you've always talked about when I've covered you and known you for years, and that's agriculture. It's a big issue for you and your family. You still have the farm. And there's a bill, I know you've talked about it because I've interviewed you for several years. It's Jason Bean's bill. Jim Hansen had a very similar bill a couple of years ago, but it's essentially the Grain Belt bill. And it's just sitting over there in the Commerce Committee. It has not received a hearing yet. And that line would go right through Randolph County, Sheraton, many other counties in our listening area to the north. Why has that bill not received a hearing at this time? Do you know?
Well, I think they're trying to find a path to move it forward. As you know, I'm a big supporter of Senator Bean's bill. I'm a big supporter of property rights. And, our family farms they have enough problems. They have the weather, they have, all the issues, prices, input costs this year through the roof. They don't need to worry about somebody coming knocking on their door saying, I'm just coming through your land. I've been granted an eminent domain, and here I come. And you don't get the same thing about it. But sometimes, Brian, you've covered the Capitol a long time. When bills are in committee, there's a lot of work behind the scenes trying to find a way to make sure you have enough votes to get it out of committee.
Sure.
And I know that Senator Bean and others in the agriculture sector are working with fellow representatives. I can tell you that Senator Rowden has told me and many other people we will get to that bill. And so I think there's a path forward. But as you know, there's the Senate's been a little complex this year, and I know we'll get a chance to have some floor time on that bill to try to get it to where it needs to be.
Thank you.
It sounds like you'll be celebrating a big day in the Capitol today with the Buy Missouri Day. Can you talk about what's happening there today, and then also about the Buy Missouri program and initiative?
Well, thank you, Stephanie. Yes. So we have the Buy Missouri program started by then Lieutenant Governor Mike Parsons. Just simply a way to find companies that manufacture products here in our state and let Missourians know they're here. His theory, my theory, is if we can keep our money within our state's border, the ripple effect on the economy is that much more. We have 484 Buy Missouri companies now that represent 15,400 Missourians, and they manufacture everything from toolboxes to windows to consumables. And so today is a day where many of those, I think several dozen, 50 maybe companies are coming to the Capitol just to display what they do, to talk to their legislators, to make sure The elected officials know how important these companies are. Everybody from a 1 or 2 person company to a 1,200 person company plays in the role of their community and plays in the role of our state. So it's to build awareness and bring awareness to the Capitol about how important our Missouri-made companies are and the people that work there.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe announcing recently he is going to run for governor of Missouri 2024. And by the way, and you guys, you know this, we are, as Zimmer Radio Group, as we are a small local company, we have much love and respect for other small businesses, and I've always appreciated that as one of the big duties of the Lieutenant Governor's office, and appreciate what you do. Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, anything else that we can do to be of service to the citizens of Missouri this morning before we let you go?
Well, one, as you have all been talking about, I hope everybody is careful and takes their time this morning with the weather. But two, yes, buymissouri.net. Stephanie brought that up. It's one of the small components that the Lieutenant Governor's office does, but it's a major piece of what we talk about. Again, we think supporting your friends and family that you know that live up and down the street that work for some of those businesses makes sense. So buymissouri.net, we encourage people to go to that. And then, pay attention to what's going on. It's hard for sometimes pay attention to what's happening in the Capitol and various things. But and I know everybody on this show has been very active, but to your listeners, see if there's issues that are happening in the Capitol, talk to your elected officials, your senators, your representatives, and make sure they know where you stand. It's very helpful for elected officials to hear from normal people from time to time. And so I would, versus, a lot of great lobbyists, but we like to hear from real people and real jobs with real issues. Let us know what's happening and where you lay on some issues so that we can make sure we're driving decisions forward in the right way.
2 years from now, we'll be in the full throes of a gubernatorial campaign for current Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. Thank you for your time on the show. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. Stay safe today.
All right, 10-4. Coming up here on 93.9, the Eagle. So the Columbia Regional Airport, new terminal coming. We got a preview yesterday. A bunch of folks there, including Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, Columbia Mayor Brian Treason, the guy who owns Como Buzz, the guy who runs Como Buzz website, Como Buzz with 1Z. He was there, a lot of folks. Mike Parks talked about the possibility of new flights coming in and maybe when. And the other thing we're doing today, I love this idea that Stephanie had. Inflation. We've never seen anything like this in the past 40 years, 81, 82. So we're highlighting music from 81 and 82, but not the cool stuff. The crappy stuff. And here's a song, Don't Tell Anybody, Stephanie.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Sheena Easton?
I don't think so.
Big back in the early 80s, and she had this song called 9 to 5.
Oh, okay.
I love this song.
Baby.
Everyone else takes it too seriously. Thank God you get it. This is Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert, 93.9 The Eagle.
Aflac.
Should ask about it at work.
Really? What's it called? Aflac! I can't take it anymore. If I gotta choke down on one more of those moldy, disgusting crackers. Bam! Whack!
Gilbert Gottfried, a lot of folks recognize the voice. He was the voice of Aflac. Basically came to fame back in the 80s, did some stand-up comedy, wasn't very funny, but a very, very obviously very gifted voice actor. He died 67, died at the age of 67. After a long illness, you'd recognize his voice from Aladdin, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Aflac commercials, and did, again, a lot of stand-up comedy. And people always, did he really? Because he always, he talked that voice. He exaggerated. I won't say he exaggerated. He highlighted his shrillness by exaggerating the shrillness of the voice. Wake Up Columbia is amazing. About 7 or 8, it must be climate change in the past 8 minutes. About 8 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, got extremely dark. Just like that, we were chatting with Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe about his gubernatorial, but announced he's going to run for governor of Missouri coming up in 2024, and it got dark.
And someone turned the lights on.
And now it's lightened up. Heavy rain mostly is what we're expecting throughout the day. I know Brian Hauswirth, he's been on the phone with the National Weather Service out of St. Louis and out of Kansas City all morning long. We're just mostly expecting heavy rain today. Ask Mike Parks. He is the director of the Columbia Regional Airport. Got to do a tour of the new terminal that's coming. Should be open up by maybe September. We asked him because everybody wants to know, hey, what are the possibility of some new flights to places other than Chicago and Dallas?
Just had several meetings with different airlines and also met with American Airlines. There's no announcement that we can make at this time, but we're going to continue having those conversations, and we're hopeful that we can have an announcement at some point during this year.
So basically nothing yet. When might the airport open? Brian Hauswirth will have some of this coming up for you at 8:03 here on 93.9 The Eagle. And Stephanie and I want to take a look at some of the legislation that's
There's a suspect in the Brooklyn subway bombing. I'm Chris Foster. Fox News, New York City's mayor, now saying he's more than a person of interest. Fox's Lauren Green's in New York.
Frank James, police say it rented the U-Haul van now associated with the shooting that left 10 people with gunshot wounds and several others injured from the chaos that ensued. The keys to the van dropped at the scene, along with a bag believed dropped by the gunman. Police also recovered a 9mm Glock with extended magazines. Hampering the search, though, there were no working video cameras in 3 subway stations. It's believed James also had posted a video with almost apocalyptic rants against the world. There's a $50,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest.
That subway station in Brooklyn's now reopened for commuters in time for this morning's rush. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is mocking Russian President Vladimir Putin's claim that war in Ukraine is going according to plan.
To be honest, no one in the world understands how such a plan could even emerge. How could a plan with providing the deaths of more than tens of thousands of your own soldiers in a little more than a month of war emerge? Who could approve of such a plan?
Russia's defense ministry reports more than 1,000 Ukrainian Marines have surrendered in the under-siege city Mariupol. Some potentially dangerous weather in the forecast from the Mississippi Valley to the Midwest.
Large hail, damaging winds, and destructive tornadoes will be possible. Please monitor the latest watches and warnings in your area. A major winter storm is bringing heavy snow and blizzard conditions from the northwest to the northern plains and upper Midwest. Some areas will receive over 3 feet of snow, with strong gusty winds causing dangerous travel and the possibility for widespread power outages.
Fox meteorologist Janice Dean, an Islamic State supporter who stabbed the British lawmaker David Arness to death last year, has been sentenced to life in prison. Ali Harbi Ali says he did the right thing killing Arness. America's listening to Fox News.
Is your current home loan the right fit for you? Near historically low rates combined with rising home values means that you could have more home equity than you might imagine. And if you're considering a refi, an expertly chosen loan from Loan Depot could save you thousands. Ask about our smart term loans, cash out, and over 300 loan options to find just the right mortgage loan for you. Call now, 866-888-LOAN, or go to loandepot.com. Loan Depot, where home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50 states.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/trial. That's ZipRecruiter.com/trial.
.939 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 8:03. It is raining, has been raining hard here in mid-Missouri. Again, no warnings, no watches right now in the mid-Missouri area. 59 our current temperature here. It's 58 degrees in Jefferson City. Good morning, everyone, and here's some of the stories we are working on for you on this busy Wednesday morning. As Branden and I have talked about all morning, the severe weather threat for mid-Missouri this morning has ended. Now, it may be hard to see that because literally the sky has been black at times. What's happened is we've had a cold front undercut a line of storms. National Weather Service Pleasant Hill meteorologist Jonathan Kurtz tells 93.9 The Eagle that a cold front pushed out well ahead of the activity area, and hence that is why we don't have any warnings nor watches at this time.
And that means that the storms that are left over are basically on top of a more stable air mass, and that has really limited the severe factor here this morning. So not really looking at any severe thunderstorms here this morning for mid-Mo. Should be pretty much just some rumbles of thunder, brief bouts of moderate rainfall for everyone out there.
Now, there is a severe weather threat for late this morning and today for areas to our east. For those of you who will be traveling to St. Louis will be impacted today. Farmington, southeast Missouri as well. We continue to get more rain. Keep in mind, in March, Columbia received 4.16 inches of rain already in the first 12 days of the month, 1.1 inches of rain as well. And we'll get more from today's downpours as well. Meantime, Boone County's new treasurer is a familiar name in business as well as agriculture. The governor has appointed the co-owner of Stanton Eggs to that position. His name is Dustin Stanton. He's 29 years old. He tells 93.9 The Eagles Wake Up Columbia the treasurer's position traditionally has been a bipartisan or a nonpartisan post. He agrees with that. He says, however, he is a fiscal conservative and that he believes the money of the government is the money of the people, and the people need to know where that money is going. You can hear the full interview with Mr. Stanton on our website. It's 939theeagle.com. A Columbia man who is charged with Saturday's drive-by shooting near McKee Street Park has made his first court appearance.
19-year-old Marquez Elam of Columbia is charged with 3 felonies, including first-degree assault. Elam made his initial court appearance on Tuesday via video, and a public defender has been appointed to represent him. Columbia police say the drive-by shooting left the victim with life-threatening injuries. The incident happened on Orchard Lane in broad daylight. Don Luzader, 93.9 The Eagle.
More than 100 people turning out yesterday, anywhere from 100 to 125 to tour the $23 million new terminal that's being built at COU, Columbia Regional Airport. COU manager Mike Parks tells my colleague 93.9 The Eagle's Branden Rathert that the new terminal should be open in late summer.
We're going to be close to Labor Day. I'll put it that way. It's going to be opened up near that time, so we won't have a precise date until a little bit closer.
We don't have a date yet, but that's the first time they've actually given a time frame. So sometime around Labor Day, the new terminal will be 52,000 square feet. That compares to the 16,000 square foot current facility. 93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you in this 8 o'clock hour by Missouri Tourism. You can visit them. Visit mo.com is their website. Visit Missouri. Our news time is 8:06. Turning our attention now to sports. A lot of action last night at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. There were 3 home runs for the Cardinals, 2 for the Royals. You would have thought they would have had more runs, but almost all those were solo shots, if you will. The Cardinals beat the Royals by a score of 6-5 last night at Busch Stadium. Albert Pujols getting a standing ovation after he hit one of them in the game, his first home run as a Cardinal since 2011. He was 3 for 4 in the game. Salvador Perez, again, just a tremendous player, catcher, great athlete, enormous power. He played designated hitter last night. 2 home runs for the Royals, and they were mammoth home runs. Today, if you're going to the game, and I know many of you are trying to go to the game from mid-Missouri, weather will definitely be a factor because it is expected to storm all day in the St. Louis area. So give yourself some extra time if you're going to try to make it, and also make sure you bring an umbrella. 93.9 The Eagle Sports is brought to you this hour by Betts Jewelers, downtown Columbia, for gifts that last a lifetime. Visit Betts Jewelers. Our news time, 8:07. All right, John, thanks so much. Our weather is brought to you by Club Car Wash. Visit clubcarwash.com to find a location near you. We have some rain falling. Skies are very dark again right now, 59 degrees. 8:08 is our time. 93.9 The Eagle and 939theeagle.com. Our traffic check is brought to you by midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. midmohires.com to find a job or to post your job opening today. Roads right now are quiet. Again, worth reiterating very quickly what Branden and I have emphasized all morning. We were ready to go at 3 o'clock this morning for severe weather coverage, and that severe weather threat just has not happened. That said, a lot of downpours. We're going to see those throughout the day. It will be very heavy. You're going to see lightning. You're going to hear thunder, but nothing severe at this time. If that changes, we'll jump out and get on the air again, but that is where we're at right now. But be prepared because it will be raining hard throughout the day. We'll have another update at the bottom of the hour. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
does it actually mean to be equal? You know what I mean? Like, women are actually equal to men, then there would be no WNBA, would there? You would just be good enough to play in the NBA with us. Or, here's another idea that's going to be very controversial. You could shut the up.
See, I think we rely too much. Vicky Hartzler said as much yesterday on ABC. She didn't say it in those words. She didn't use those words. But she was addressing this yesterday while she was in town. I had an opportunity to chat with her. She was at the airport for the tour of the in-progress new terminal, which is going to be big for Columbia, and here's why. There is a lot, and you can talk to Chamber of Commerce, you can talk to business people. There is a lot to be said about a sense of arrival, and right now the airport is old. People come here from all over the world, and they come here whether it's and not just because of family and Mizzou College students, but we look at some of these, especially some of these new medical facilities that have been created over the past couple of years. We have world-class talent, people, from all across the world, and I get very choked up about it.
No, I understand. My allergies been acting up too. Brandon, what you just said is spot on, and it's the Next Gen Precision Health Institute, the Roy Blunt Institute that you're referring to, and those isotopes have to go out. So we have that. We also have had numerous presidents that I've kind of profiled. Bob Hope is somebody who
former president Bob Hope.
He wasn't a president, but he was awfully big. So he was awfully big. But I mean, presidents have come through there. In that terminal, literally, it looks like 1968.
Yeah,
it really
and
does.
This is going to be beautiful. More facilities, so people like Stephanie Bell use the airport all the time. This is big stuff because we don't have all the facilities that some other airports have.
Yeah, I recently, last year, flew in from Big Sky and was missing a suitcase. And I get on the phone with American Airlines. It's late at night, right? So, in the front part of the airport, everyone's gone. There's no flights leaving. And I'm on the phone with American Airlines, and they're like, well, just go to the baggage office and fill out a piece of paper. And I'm like, I don't think you understand where I'm at. And they just kept repeating it. And I'm like, there is no baggage office. Our airport is like a mobile home. There's literally the people unloading the bags of the flight that just came off are here.
Yeah. And it's not going to be like that anymore. It's going to be spectacular and also necessary for ADA requirements, too. Right. People go, it's not necessary. It is. It is technically, legally necessary.
That's federal law.
Yeah, federal law.
And there's no, exactly. I've heard people say that. And federal law, no ands, ifs, buts about it.
Yeah.
There's going to be food, too. So I do hope they keep the rice cakes because I really love those things. But there will be like a restaurant. They say, why are you laughing? They're good.
No, I know because it will. There is some charm about it,
Yeah, no.
But what it's
and
like
the charm
now
is the free parking.
Yep.
The fact that you don't have to get there a bazillion hours early. The folks are super friendly and helpful. I love that airport.
And I think if you go to the website for the COU Airport, Columbia Regional Airport, they even put a calculator on there. I haven't flown out of St. Louis or Kansas City in I don't know how long it's been. Years, yeah. Because parking, gas especially right now, and my time. I don't want to spend 2 hours going to St. Louis so I can get there 60 to 90 minutes prior to a flight. I don't want a 2-hour drive when I get home. I love this airport. So saw Vicky yesterday, Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler. And before she was at the airport joining us on this tour of the facility that's in progress, she was on ABC talking about transgender sports in schools.
Any school that receives federal dollars is under Title IX, and there is legislation that I've co-sponsored that says if you receive those funds, you have to keep women's sports for women.
Which makes sense. Vicky Hartzler and comedian Dave Chappelle are on the same page. That's what this world has come to, Hannah. See what happens when you're gone for a day? That's what this world comes to. Vicky Hartzler agrees with comedian Dave Chappelle. Yesterday, Will was on the show, me personally, I can't speak for anybody else here, endorsing or encouraging people to vote for a black gay hairdresser as opposed to a white male Vietnam-era veteran who has served our city in an elected capacity. I'm supporting the other guy, not the veteran, not somebody who's held elected office for 12 years. That's where we are now. And Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler agrees with Dave Chappelle, I think, on that. But I'm wondering, like, you have two girls. And this is something, what's happening now in Jefferson City and, frankly, across the nation, these are things that could affect you and your daughters.
Yeah, and I think about it in terms of, being able to compete at the highest level. There's some prestige with that. And, I talk a lot about scholarships. But, even outside of, is that scholarship money going to be available for young girls who, could earn that money to go to college? And for many athletes, that college scholarship is one of the only ways that they could actually, get to an institution of higher education. But even without that, you look at like applying to colleges, a lot of folks use their athletic record and say, I was the best in this, or I was on a team, I can be a leader. All of those things that athletics bring to a young high school student that might, if we combine or allow men to compete in, or trans folks to compete with women, and then we force women out of the top echelons of athletics, it's going to make women less competitive for higher ed.
And in my opinion, besides all just the common sense science to it, it's just stupid, the idea that we should allow dudes to play chick sports because they've taken some hormone blockers. Complete and utter BS. And also, we had a big event that happened in Columbia yesterday. It was the WIN Awards, Women's Intersport Network for Columbia. 25 years they've been doing this. It's happened at Columbia College. It's also the 50th anniversary of the creation of Title IX, that prohibits against discrimination in sports. Katie Showers, matter of fact, Kansas City Chiefs fans, we are familiar with Katie. She was the first female NFL coach. She had a coaching position in the NFL for the San Francisco 49ers when our Chiefs beat them a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl. She was here in town, highlighting all of these women. As a matter of fact, if anybody knows Lexi Dickerson, she won the Collegiate Sportswoman of the Year award. And I was not there, but to see the pictures and talk to people that were there, the celebration of all of these women right here in Columbia, Missouri, and this Katie Sowers, who we saw in the Super Bowl, who is the second woman ever to coach in the NFL, not head coach, but she coached in the NFL, went to a Super Bowl. And this on the heels, by the way, in baseball last night. Had a first female coach on the field, Alyssa Knockin, for the San Francisco Giants at home. Went out and she was the first base coach for the Giants last night.
Well, and we made news last year with our athletic director, Reed Francois. Yeah. She's only, I think, the second in SEC history to be the athletic director, so really exciting.
So we have this big event here in town. People like Lexi Dickerson are honored. All of these women. Women's Intersport Network for Columbia. Can you imagine if you got a bunch of dudes up there? We're celebrating women. Seriously. We got all these dudes. That would not be cool. I would feel so badly for these women like Lexi and all of the other women who picked up awards yesterday. Couldn't imagine the look on their faces, especially the younger women who go, wait a minute, I fought real hard and I did all this, and now you're going to let a dude come. Why don't you let the dude just compete in the dude sports? That's why people say, well, we shouldn't. We do separate sports. We do.
We always have.
We always have. And if you want to do the co-ed, it's just idiotic. My goodness. I can't be the smartest person in the room here.
Well, and I will say I do think the reason why some folks struggle with that, and me in particular, is that no one has identified a good solution yet. And so I think you can want to support trans folks and want to support them in athletics and still want to protect women in women's sports. And so what is the solution? Do they have their own league? Do they compete in their biological? I mean, it seems like there's a problem with every solution that's been proposed so far. And so I think a lot of folks who, I mean, there's just no, there's a lot of smart people out there looking at the issue. There's no good solution. And so while I want to protect women's sports and while I don't feel like I'm anti-trans, I think no one's come up with a workable solution.
And that's the thing. We get tagged, well, you're anti-trans. And by the way, check out some of these headlines. And I think the solution in my mind is real easy. You play the gender that you are. Not that science snipped you up and medicated you to be. You play the gender that you are, or you create a league. Listen, whoever wants to play, y'all go ahead. You're dude, chick, trans, LGBTQI, whatever you want to put behind it. That's how you do it. The other thing that bothers me, and I just don't think it's that hard of a solution. It's really
we just get away from sports and we just compete academically where we can kick your butt anyway.
There you go. Yeah. For men, we're not going to let men go to school because women are just, But headlines. One headline: Missouri leaders continue to take steps that would restrict trans women athletes. And see, that's the way it's painted. That is not about restricting trans women athletes. It's about protecting women. How about this headline? Missouri leaders continue to take steps that would protect women in sports. How about that headline? Why not?
Sounds fair.
Yeah. St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Missouri Republicans target schools, books, and race. Now, that's off the topic of transgen stuff, but the headline, Missouri Republicans target schools, books, and race in latest culture war proposal. And this has to do with proposed legislation that would say, hey, listen, parents, you have a right, and we don't want these kinds of things. But it's a culture war. It's not a culture war like the St. Louis Post-Dispatch thinks it is. It's a mess. It's a cleanup. That's what we're trying to clean up, the mess, that mindset.
I struggle with this Parents' Bill of Rights. Maybe we can talk about that later. I know conservatives are really behind it, but there are some things in there that I struggle with it.
874-9390. David, welcome into the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, I tell you what, this is kind of a humorous topic because common sense is out the door. Never could figure out is, here you got people like Bruce Jenner, and then you have people, the feminist groups, with Gloria Allred or whatever her name is. They don't get involved. They have him as Woman of the Year, and everybody's saying, he's the, Woman of the Year. And then these feminist groups don't get involved in these transgender things. I don't get it. I'm just totally, they're man haters, but at the same time, they're for this. I don't get that. I am totally confused. Somebody needs a checkup from the neck up on that one.
Hey, David, thank you for the phone call. 874-9390, 874-9390. I think in simplest terms, it doesn't make sense that the same people who said we need equality, women's rights, and all this, and now we want to interfere with women's sports and make it unfair. It's really not that difficult. It really isn't. It just isn't. And it's not being mean to anybody, however you want to identify. It's not being mean. It's quite the opposite. It's being sensible, and it's being protective. And kind of, aren't we supposed to be polite? I know it might be considered sexist for some people or misogynistic, but typically as men, aren't we supposed to be kind and respectful towards women? And I think one of the kindest, most respectful things we can do is protect a lot of the rights that they have unfortunately had to work for a lot of years. Hal, what's up, buddy?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Great topic. And the last guy that called in, I believe that he was saying Kylie Jenner was on the wrong side of the issue. But I believe he came out the other day and said, hey, women's sports are for women, and us guys that are transgen are guys, and we shouldn't be competing with them. Words to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And the solution to all this is if your chromosomes say you're a guy, you compete with the guys. You don't go messing around in women's locker rooms and, okay, you want to be a drag queen, you want to look like a gal, you want to play like you're a gal, you think you're a gal, fine. But you don't compete with the gals. And it's just real damn simple. It's a lab test.
Hal, you're so mean, Hal. You're mean and insensitive.
You betcha.
Thank you, Hal. Coming up, Morning Bell. Business news, that little twist only Stephanie Bell can do for you. What do you got for us?
Let's keep it local. A new business in Columbia that I personally am very excited about.
All right, we're celebrating, honoring the years of 1981, 1982. Last time inflation was this bad, 1981, 1982. A lot of people here weren't even here to experience that. People like Hannah, the producer, Stephanie Bell, experienced something they've never experienced in their lives, and they can thank Joe for that. So we're highlighting songs from 81 and 82, but not the good stuff. Not the classic rock stuff. Stuff that we might look back and go, that was top 40 music back in 1981. That was number one on the radio.
Times really were bad.
They were. The greatest American hero TV show. What's going on? I'm Branden Rathert, Gaps Automotive Repair Shop. My vehicle's approaching 140,000 miles. I've been with Gap since I had about 75,000 miles on it. Do the math. I love it. I love the relationship I have with Gaps because I never really had, like, my mechanic. I'd never had that before. It was always, the dealership or a national chain. And here's why I evolved on that. I like the idea that basically this small local repair shop, Gap's Automotive Repair Shop on Vandiver and Columbia, they're in Boonville too. It's the same folks working on my car. And that's important. Because I know you can look up on, here's what we did last 3 months ago when you were here. And these guys, they're the same ones that have been working on my car for several years now. And I appreciate that. I think you would appreciate that too. Check them out, Gap's Automotive Repair Shop, Vandiver in Columbia, and they're in Boonville.
Download the 93.9 The Eagle app and listen to Wake Up Columbia everywhere. It's easy to do. Geez, even Branden figured it out. 93.9 The Eagle.
Morning, it's 8:29. Time for the Morning Bell with Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
You know I don't like sandwiches, but I love chicken salad. Like tuna salad,
Yeah.
Chicken Salad Chick is going to open April 26th near Broadway and Highway 63. They have one in St. Louis. I love it. They have like different kinds, some with like fruit, some with nuts. So delicious.
And it's
I
actually,
can't wait.
It's chicken salad. It's not a salad with chicken in it. It's chicken salad.
It's chicken salad, like egg salad, tuna salad, ham salad.
So that's unique because
Southern favorite.
We have numerous chicken joints here in this town. Slim Chickens and the new one down there on Providence, and then, of course, Chick-fil-A. So this will be something.
It's like an ice cream scoop.
Yeah,
chicken
unique.
salad.
I have your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast. Thunderstorms, heavy rain today, high 64. Chance of rain continues overnight, low 32. Tomorrow, sunshine, high 61, which is where we are right now. Weather's brought to you by Club Car Wash. Stop by Club Car Wash, get an unlimited membership, $20 a month. More details, clubcarwash.com. You can also find that location that's nearest you.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. He's gone from person of interest to suspect. The man wanted in the Brooklyn subway shooting. New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
I am confident that we're going to bring the suspect to justice.
Speaking of Fox News, a morning after the mass shooting, which left 29 people injured.
Investigators are trying to track Frank R. James, 62 years old, based on his contacts in Wisconsin and in Philadelphia. He has addresses there. Police found a key to a U-Haul van left inside the subway car where this attack happened, which led investigators to Frank James, who rented the U-Haul in Philadelphia.
Fox's Brian Yennis in Brooklyn, and 2 children have been found dead in Miami after officers responded to several 911 hang-up calls from that apartment. The children appear to be 3 and 6 years old. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 8:31 right now. We do have partly cloudy, actually mostly cloudy skies right now in most of mid-Missouri. Here in Columbia, the sky continues to be dark. We have some rain falling as well. 59 our current temperature. Good morning, everyone. Here are some of the stories we are working on for you at this hour. Let's begin with the weather. The National Weather Service says today's severe weather threat for central Missouri is very low because any storms are on top of a more stable air mass. That has limited the severe factor, according to the National Weather Service. NWS St. Louis meteorologist Fred Glass says a front is moving through the Columbia and Jefferson City area between about now and 10 o'clock this morning.
We could see a few more storms develop along it. The chance of that is low, and the chance of severe weather it looks really low.
NWS says the greatest area of concern for severe weather today is in far southeast Missouri. High potential there of tornadoes, hail as well. Columbia's outgoing mayor says he cannot think of a larger generational investment than the I-70 Roachport Bridge, a $240 million project. Groundbreaking ceremony for the massive project took place back in October.
None of us can remember when that bridge was built in the 1950s. It's well beyond its useful life.
Current deteriorating bridge finished in 1960. 4 million trucks cross the I-70 Roachport Bridge each year. First Lady Jill Biden, as we speak, Jill Biden, the First Lady, on her way to Knob Noster in west central Missouri. She'll be visiting there, Whiteman Air Base as well, talking about the month of the military child. And a Columbia man charged with a drive-by shooting near McKee Street Park, still jailed without bond this morning. News is brought to you this hour by the folks at Hemi Construction here in Columbia. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:33. In sports, the Cardinals beat the Royals last night over at Busch behind 3 home runs. Cardinal designated hitter Albert Pujols with one of them, 3 for 4 in the ballgame. Royal star Salvador Perez, very impressive player. He hit 2 home runs for Kansas City. Reminds me a lot of a guy named Vladimir Guerrero. He just goes up and swings. He's not going to get cheated at the plate. A lot of hitting last night. Hopefully they'll get the game in today. If you're traveling to the game, and I know a lot of folks here at the radio station are going, and some folks from mid-Missouri as well, hopefully the weather will cooperate. You'll definitely need an umbrella if at all possible. But the National Weather Service, their storm prediction map, is projecting really rain and a lot of it heavy, potentially even tornado risk all day through about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So hopefully they'll be able to get it in. We'll keep you posted. 12:15 is the first pitch today. Sports is brought to you by Witt Print Shop here in Columbia, where your printed products are so much more than ink and paper. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:34. Traffic check, MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Our roads right now are pretty quiet in mid-Missouri. If you want to report a traffic issue, call or text us. More team coverage coming your way in less than 30 minutes. We have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
And now it's Albert Pujols. In the air. Out to deep left. It is gone! Welcome back, Albert. It's like you never left. Number 680. And he does it back in St. Louis.
Cardinals could finish at 500 this year. If Albert Pujols keeps homering, they are going to be okay. Then the crowd gushing. He gets the standing O. Albert Pujols. First home run since the 2011 season, the year the Cardinals won, I think, in my mind, one of the best World Series ever played.
Oh, yeah.
Cardinals, Rangers, David Freese, Game 6, bottom of the 9th, and then again, bottom of the 12th or 13th inning. Wow. Cardinals, you can hear them if they play this afternoon. Take it on the Royals here on 93.9. The Eagle. Cardinals now 3-1 on the season. Welcome into the show.
Great audio there, by the way.
Yeah, and I love that. Albert Pujols making a curtain call, man. That is really cool to see. There's Mr. Brian Hauswirth, weather-wise. What's up?
Well, I think for the game, really for us, it's kind of the same thing, a little bit different. So for people heading to the game, there is a severe weather threat. There's no doubt about that. There's a tornado threat, a threat of large hail. We're talking maybe 70-mile-an-hour winds. I'd be very careful, especially if you're out and about today. Not going to see that based on what I've talked to the Weather Service. In fact, I just talked to him. Actually, we got off the Kehoe interview again just to check in. No warnings, no watches. But they're warning again about a lot of downpours, and we'll have skies that just kind of dump down a lot of rain. Nothing severe. And the biggest thing to emphasize for Columbia, they keep telling people, turn your headlights on. That's very important. Sure. But we're not going to see any tornadoes, anything like that.
And the headlights, of course, is not so that you can see better. It's so that people, and I know you've got daytime running lights, but especially people that are behind you when those lights are on. That's how that is helpful. Hannah, the producer, is back. Glad to have you here. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
It feels like a second Monday after having a day off.
We are glad that you are here. We miss you when you are not here. Stephanie Bill is not a fan of protecting parents' rights. How come?
I'm not a fan of protecting parents' rights.
I'm kidding. So we're going to talk about what's happening in Jefferson City. And these are things that are going to be affecting us. And we saw what's happened over the past 2 years, especially the frustration of parents who have kids in the Columbia Public School District. There's no denying that. Frustration with the Board of Education, especially that meeting which the president, Helen Wade, just ended the meeting falsely, said a parent was being derogatory. They absolutely weren't. You can go watch the meeting from several months ago. I'm not making any of this up. It's facts. It's out there. So we know the issues that's happening in the Columbia Public School District, then I tease a little bit because that's the way it gets posited. So in Jefferson City in the House right now, they're talking about a parental bill of rights, and Stephanie is not in favor of it. So the angle is Stephanie doesn't want you to have parental rights.
What?
I know,
No,
right?
but I do feel like, this whole, we have to pass more laws to protect parents' rights. I mean, at some point, more government is not the answer, right? And I feel like, I'm looking at the bill right now, and it says, this is the Parents' Bill of Rights, and all parents shall have the right to know what their minor child is being taught in school. But I'm thinking, if I'm a parent and I show up to the school and I have to say, hey, there's a law that says I have a right to know, like, I've already lost if I've gotten to that stage. And so, I was thankful last night. So for all my friends in Southern Boone, and I met lots of Wake Up Columbia family members at the school last night. So the 5th grade is moving from the elementary school up to the middle school, which will be new next year. And so they did a quick orientation and for all the kids who would be transitioning to the new building. But we went from room to room, and we met the school nurse, we met the counselor, we met the PE teacher. We went in and met all the reading and writing teachers as well. And they had little slideshows, and they said, here's what the curriculum is going to be. If you have any questions, ask them now, email us, stay in contact. And I think it's more about, rather than going to your legislature and saying, give me the right to know what's going on, and just being that involved parent and trying to, build that relationship with your school. And I think, Branden, you bring up a good point. Parents have not had that opportunity, and I don't think they get that opportunity in Columbia. And I think that's why we moved to Southern Boone, because we knew these things were there. And right now, so I think more than a parent's Bill of Rights, we have to have school choice. You have to be able to say, I'm sick and tired of Columbia Public Schools, or like our local representative said Columbia Public Schools sucks and I want to go somewhere else. And schools shouldn't be dictated by your zip code. But I think if you're having to show up to your school and say, the legislature told me I have a right to know what's being taught, you've already lost, and you're already in a place that is not a good fit for your family and your child. And I was pleased. It was kind of a lengthy process, and I thought, I'm going to forget all of the stuff that they told me last night by August. But kind of having that relationship in the school, kind of opening their doors and having that line of communications, I think showed a certain respect for parents, that if you're in a district that doesn't have that, you should have every right as a parent to get the heck out of there.
So right now we don't have that. And it is great because every school district in Missouri is as good as Southern Boone School District, right? So this legislation completely not needed. There's a reason for, and I agree, more laws to protect this or declarations, and we're going to do this, we're announcing this. I get it. It can be window dressing sometimes, but it's not happening. It's not happening, and I don't know what's happening in other school districts. I hear anecdotal evidence. We talk to other people. Scott Fawn from Jefferson City. He talks to Christopher Arp, St. Louis area, our Springfield affiliate. So we know what happens there. I'd put a little bit of money down that Columbia Public School District might be front and center on all of this. So why else are you against parental rights? I also want to say the Missourian, and here's what happens. You get something like this in the Missourian. One of our local reps, David Tyson Smith, who's a fine gentleman, fine attorney, he's quoted as saying CRT is a phantom problem. And I don't know if he's just misinformed or if he's lying to you, because that is not accurate. It's not a phantom problem. It is a real problem. That's why, there's no CRT courses. There's no book that says this is CRT 101. There's not a placard on the door that says, welcome, this is CRT 101 in Mrs. Smith's class. So that's how they either get away with lying, which is what is happening, because it does. I've highlighted even just this morning a homework assignment from a kid who said, no, I wouldn't have done this because I would feel bad about the blacks and blah, blah, blah. So it is happening. So Mr. Tyson either needs to get more educated or he needs to come clean and come honest. But then undoes his case. He is also quoted as saying, quote, CRT is almost exclusively, you can't use those two words together. And he's an attorney. Almost.
That's why he is using those two words together. Right? He's being very careful.
Exactly. Almost. So he is ceding. It's not exclusively taught in higher education. He knows. Again, I'll go back to he is lying or he's incredibly misinformed. You can't be almost exclusively. I want to try that. If I ever date again, I'm going to try that. Hey, baby. Because at that point in time will come, she'll want to have let's define the relationship conversation.
Are we exclusive or not?
That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, well, yeah, baby, almost exclusive.
Yikes.
Are we exclusive, baby?
This is why you have relationship problems.
That's David, a local representative. That's what he is saying. Almost exclusively, CRT is just I'm going to try that. Yeah, baby. We're exclusive. Almost. Depends on what night of the week it is. Depends on who I run into in my daily life. almost exclusive.
Well, and we've had parents text us in homework assignments that very clearly are based in the 1619 project or CRT that we know are going on. And then more importantly, I mean, we saw the contract that the Columbia Public Schools signed on the dotted line that said, we'll develop curriculum within the 1619 project, and we agree that we will implement it in at least 2 classrooms.
Well, and here's one of the frustrating things, because when the higher-ups of the school say, well, yeah, we got the grant money for teachers to explore looking at it. We don't have it in schools. But you're going in that direction because the teachers are applying for grants, and they're getting the grants to look at the idea. Don't lie. My God. Quit lying.
Whoa. You gave Hannah a heart attack there, I think.
I know that when Branden and I covered Dr. Yearwood's appearance a couple of weeks ago, it was right before the election, we covered him, and he was at the Pachyderms. And it was primarily about the $80 million bond issue. And that was what he was talking about. Very few questions, by the way, from the audience about the bond issue. There were several people that wanted to talk to CRT, but because of other issues that came up, they could not. And there's too many other people are asking other questions, but I do know they want to bring him back, and he acts like he would come back. But you know, I found him to be. He answered all their questions. They didn't always like what he had to say, but I did not hear him. I did not hear him specifically ask about it. The last time I've heard it, Branden, was when you asked him about it on this show, and he said it is, as I recall, he told you it's not taught. CRT is not taught in schools, but that was back in August.
Yeah, but it is. You can say there's no course. You can say all that. There is CRT in the Columbia Public School classrooms. And here's the funny thing, because when you're on the streets, talk to somebody who's in favor, yes, this stuff, we should teach little white kids that they're bad because of what their ancestors did a couple hundred years ago. People that are in favor of that, talk to them that are in favor of it. Say, yeah, so how are they covering this in your school? They will freely, so my kid in school today in Columbia, it is happening. My gosh. You want to do some leftovers?
Sure.
All right. I like leftovers because you never know what's in, you open up the fridge. That's what leftovers here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle is like. You open up the fridge and you're not quite sure what's going to be in there. And sometimes you score. You go, oh, look, I got half of a Kit Kat that I didn't eat the other night.
Why did you put a half of a Kit Kat in the fridge?
To keep it cool and crisp. You don't put candy in the refrigerator?
No.
Ever?
I mean, I guess I don't have half of a Kit Kat left. If I'm going to eat a Kit Kat, I'll just eat it.
So you open up the fridge sometimes and you score. Look, I got a leftover Kit Kat in the refrigerator. Or you open up and go, man, I got some chicken salad and a jar of mayonnaise. I did not score. We will do leftovers and one more song. We're celebrating because this is something Hannah, the producer, and a whole lot of other folks, Stephanie Bell, have never experienced inflation so bad. I think of all the people, basically, if you're 50 and under, this is new for you. 45 and under, maybe. This is new for you. Inflation like we have not seen since 1981-82. So we've been highlighting some of those songs from 1981 and 1982, but we've done it with a twist.
Only the really bad ones.
Well, not the really cool classic rock songs of 81 and 82, but the songs that back then were like number one on the top 40 charts that people in their 50s thought was cool. We thought, this is great music. This is the final one we're doing today. Then coming up 8:52. Stick around. We're going to open up the refrigerator and see what's left over. Pumping and hydrojetting, pro-pumping and hydrojetting. They do a couple of different things. One of the things they do, they clean out grease traps. As a matter of fact, and people say, well, okay, so they clean out grease traps, some of the finest restaurants in town. It's kind of an odd selling thing, and I get it. I understand that. But think about these, the restaurants, eateries that have done really well. They're still here. They're still doing business. You got to know those people are smart people. They're proactive people. And I'm thinking, if they've been successful enough that they have a restaurant and it's still open and they've been doing it for a lot of years, they must know something. And if they are hiring pro-pumping and hydrojetting, Again, they must know something. I kind of trust their judgment. So when we talk about pro pumping and hydrojetting, and when they clean out grease traps and things like that, and they do some of the most well-known restaurants, not just in Columbia, but in all of mid-Missouri, it just tells me something, because I know these people that own these restaurants. They're intelligent people. They put a lot of thought into what they do. And so if they're calling and hiring pro pumping and hydrojetting, to me, that means something. Check them out online, pro-pumping.com.
Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert. It's what happens when you let emotionally unbalanced people play in a room full of microphones. 93.9 The Eagle.
Why isn't the NYPD going and parking out front of gun shows and starting to take, license plates down of people who are coming from New York to purchase guns out of state?
I don't know whether to cry or laugh. That's MSNBC.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to some gun shows. I don't see like the criminals and the gangbangers hanging out at gun shows going to buy guns. I mean, the bad people are going to get what they want to get.
So that guy on MSNBC yesterday, because of the shooting on the subway in New York City, gun control. As a matter of fact, the New York mayor, Eric Adams, it was like 3 seconds before gun control, national gun control, gun control. So On MSNBC, they're advocating, why don't the cops go and hang out at gun shows, write down license plates, so anybody that comes here, we can start spying on them to see if they're practicing one of their constitutional rights.
Yeah, and I mean, those people are not who we need to be worried about for sure.
No. And the thing that always scares me is that then there's people that pay attention to MSNBC and CNN and USA Today, and they take that as fact, and they don't question it, and that's all they gobble up is all that stuff. It's incredibly frightening. I'm guessing Gary Nolan, I'm guessing.
He's going to be all over it.
I'm going to make an assumption. I'm going to stereotype Gary Nolan here, because a lot of times, stereotyping works. A lot of times assuming works. I'm going to stereotype Gary as somebody, since he hosts Gary on Guns Saturday mornings from 8 to 10 here on 93.9 The Eagle, since he talks freely and openly about guns. I'm going to stereotype, based on his past behavior, that he might talk about this today. And then maybe also talk about what happened in Georgia. The governor there signing, basically saying, man, you have a Second Amendment right, and we are, in effect, enacting legislation because now we've got to protect one of those rights.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers on 93.9 The Eagle. Enjoy.
Leftovers. Love doing leftovers, like open up the fridge or the pantry. You never know what you're going to find in there. Sometimes you hit the jackpot. Let's hope we hit it this morning. What's over in your pantry there, Steph?
Well, apparently there is a new app. You have been carrying around, I think, like a ratty envelope with ratty receipts. You've been stuffing them in there, trying to collect all of your gas tax receipts to get your, $100 refund or whatever it is going to be.
Maybe 36.
Oh, sheesh. And a lot of people have already given up, I think.
Yeah.
They tried for a little bit and then said, you know what, it's just not worth it. But apparently there is a new app out that says it can help residents get their money back at the pump. It's supposed to be an easier way to kind of track what's going on. I think it's called the No Mo Gas Tax app. And I have not checked with the Department of Revenue over whether, this app is like legit and can actually help you, so you need to explore that yourself. But I like the ingenuity in someone saying, you know what, this is kind of a pain and I can make things easier for folks. And anything to reduce people's burdens too right now as far as gas, I think is great.
I'm going to assume they were probably a listener of the show, right?
Right.
And heard us complain about how much of a pain in the rear. And I still do believe they don't want you. Somebody had this suggestion. Everybody, every single Missourian, I think, what do we have, 6 to 8 million people here in the state? I don't know how many people drive, but every single person who gets gas this year should get one receipt. Fill out the paperwork. And I don't want to be a pain in the rear to the folks at the Missouri Department of Revenue, but think about this. Every single person in Missouri got a gallon of gas, got just one receipt, and filled out the paperwork and sent it in.
It's like people who pay with things in pennies, like who are mad and they just show up with like a bag of pennies. It's that level of petty, which on the gas tax, I 100% am and in favor of.
Also, this leftovers, we didn't get a whole lot of time to get to this today. Senator Caleb Branden has an idea to name the bridge going into Jefferson, in and out of Jefferson, the I-70 Rocheport Bridge. So Rowden said Tuesday he recently discovered a petition was filed to name the I-70 Rocheport Bridge after a deceased military